It is often said that we are the product of our experiences, shaped by the events we live through, the people we meet, and the choices we make. But if we were to look at ourselves from a distance, say, from the perspective of our past selves, would we recognize the person we've become? Would our past version look at us and see a familiar face, or would they be confused by the stranger in the mirror? The question of whether our past selves would recognize our present selves is not just an exercise in nostalgia or self-reflection. It is an exploration of how deeply our identities are linked to the passage of time, how our beliefs, habits, and even our perceptions of the world are constantly evolving. To understand this, we need to consider what makes us who we are. At the core of this question lies the concept of identity. Who are we really? Is our identity fixed, a permanent state of being that does not change over time? Or is it a fluid concept that continuously shifts in response to our experiences? If you were to think about the person you were 5 years ago, would you see yourself as the same person? The obvious answer might seem like yes. We have the same name, the same basic memories, and perhaps even similar interests. But delve a little deeper, and you might realize that much has changed. Our experiences shape us in ways we don't always recognize at the moment. Over time, we accumulate knowledge, wisdom, and sometimes even trauma, which all play a role in molding the person we are today. Think about your values and beliefs. Do they align with those of your younger self? The things that once seemed important might now seem trivial, and what once felt like unchangeable truths might now be questioned. This is the fluidity of identity at work, the ever-changing nature of who we are as we process life's events. We are not the same person we were a year ago, let alone 5 or 10 years ago. Time is one of the most powerful forces in shaping our identity. It molds us like a sculptor working with clay, gradually smoothing away edges, refining contours, and adding new features as we live through it. Our environment, our relationships, and our personal growth over the years all contribute to the person we eventually become. Think back to a time when you were younger, perhaps during your teenage years. Your goals, dreams, and even the way you viewed the world were probably very different from what they are today. You may have had a sense of invincibility, an eagerness to take risks, and a confidence in your understanding of life. But as time passes, you gain more experiences, face setbacks, and learn hard truths. Those early ideals might begin to fade, replaced by a more grounded sense of reality. Yet, even though our past selves might look very different from who we are now, we are still connected to them. The choices we made in the past have led us to where we are today. The things we learned, the mistakes we made, and the relationships we formed. Each of these moments has shaped our current identity. The person we are now is an extension of who we once were, just as the person we will be in the future will be an extension of who we are today. Memory is another key factor in understanding whether past you would recognize present you. Our memories serve as the bridge between who we were and who we are. They are the reference point we use to define our personal history, the mental map that connects the various chapters of our lives. But memory is not always a reliable guide. Over time, our memories can become distorted, influenced by our changing perspectives and emotions. The way we remember past events is often colored by our current state of mind, and this can make it difficult to truly see ourselves as we were. We might remember things differently than how they actually happened, and sometimes we forget important moments altogether. This creates a gap between the past and present selves, a gap that makes it harder for us to fully recognize the person we've become. The past self, too, might be a distorted version of who we really were. We often see ourselves through the lens of hindsight, which can be just as imperfect. It is easy to romanticize the past, to look back and remember only the good parts, while forgetting the struggles, mistakes, and challenges that shaped us. One of the most significant aspects of identity is personal growth. We are not static beings, we are constantly evolving. And much of this evolution is driven by change. Growth can be both external, such as changes in appearance, career, or social circles, and internal, such as shifts in our values, emotional maturity, or self-awareness. This growth is a natural part of life, and it's what allows us to navigate the challenges of the world and adapt to new circumstances. Personal growth doesn't always mean moving toward a better version of ourselves. Sometimes it means accepting the imperfections and flaws that make us human. Our past selves may have been driven by different desires or values, and in some ways, they may have been more naive or less self-aware. The person we are now, however, may have a deeper understanding of life's complexities, even if it comes with a sense of loss or disillusionment. Would our past selves recognize our present selves, knowing the paths we've walked? Perhaps not entirely, but they might see reflections of themselves in us, fragments of past desires, passions, or hopes. After all, even though we change, there is something consistent within us that remains unchanged, our core essence, the part of us that seeks meaning, growth, and connection. So, would past you recognize present you? The answer is complex, but ultimately, the recognition might not come from seeing a familiar face or recalling old memories. It might come from a deeper understanding that, despite the changes in our appearance, beliefs, and life circumstances, we are still fundamentally connected to the person we once were. The passage of time has shaped us, but it has not erased who we are. Life often feels like a labyrinth, a vast, complex maze with twists, turns, dead ends, and moments of clarity. We wander through it, seeking meaning, purpose, and direction, often finding ourselves at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. The idea of life as a labyrinth is more than just a metaphor. It reflects the way we navigate our own existence, constantly trying to make sense of our surroundings while struggling to find a way out, or perhaps a way forward. A labyrinth, unlike a maze, is not about finding the way out, but about finding the way through. This simple but profound distinction highlights a key aspect of life itself. We often think of life in terms of goals, a place to get to, a destination to reach. But perhaps the true nature of life is not about escaping it, but about experiencing it, moving through it, and growing with every step we take. Each turn, each dead end, and each moment of progress is part of the journey. When we think of a labyrinth, we imagine a path that is unclear and full of uncertainty. The walls are high, the way forward is not obvious, and the path is never straightforward. This mirrors how life often feels, full of confusion, unpredictability, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. We find ourselves faced with decisions that are not always easy, and sometimes it feels as though we are wandering aimlessly, searching for answers in the dark. In these moments, it can seem as if we are trapped in the maze of our own lives with no clear way out. Yet, the labyrinth is also a place of introspection. It's a space where we are forced to slow down and reflect on our choices, our desires, and our fears. In the quiet of the maze, away from the noise of the outside world, we can find the space to look inward. This is where we begin to understand the deeper patterns of our own lives, the things that shape us, the lessons we need to learn, and the paths that are truly worth pursuing. Sometimes, the most important discoveries about who we are come not when we find the right path, but when we learn to navigate the labyrinth with patience and mindfulness. The metaphor of the labyrinth also speaks to the idea of obstacles and challenges. Life is full of them, much like the twists and turns of a labyrinth. There are moments when it feels as though no matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to move forward. We encounter barriers, setbacks, and moments of doubt, which can make the journey feel impossible. These challenges, however, are not meant to be seen as failures, but as opportunities for growth. Just as the labyrinth's winding paths force us to change direction and rethink our approach, life's challenges encourage us to adapt, to find new solutions, and to evolve. The walls of the labyrinth can also represent the limitations we place on ourselves. Often, the greatest obstacles we face are not external, but internal. Our own fears, doubts, and insecurities can trap us in a maze of self-imposed boundaries. These limitations are often the hardest to break through, yet they are the ones that offer the most profound growth. As we navigate through life's labyrinth, we may eventually come to realize that many of the walls we face are only illusions, created by our own minds, based on past experiences or imagined fears. The key to moving forward is not always to break down the walls, but to recognize that we have the power to step beyond them. Sometimes, as we wander through life's labyrinth, we encounter others who are on their own journeys. These people may appear at crossroads or dead ends, offering guidance or companionship. They may show us a different perspective, a new way of thinking, or a fresh path to explore. Relationships, friendships, and connections with others can serve as a beacon of light in the labyrinth, helping us find our way when we feel lost or uncertain. We are not meant to navigate life's maze alone. The labyrinth is filled with opportunities to connect, share, and learn from one another. There are moments in life when we feel as though we've reached a dead end, a point of no return. These are the moments when it seems like all hope is lost and the way forward is blocked. Yet, even at a dead end, there is the potential for growth. Dead ends force us to reevaluate our approach, to reflect on our decisions, and to learn from our mistakes. They are not the end of the journey, but a necessary part of the process. In the labyrinth, the only true dead end is the one we refuse to learn from. Every path, no matter how difficult or confusing, has something valuable to offer if we are willing to stay open and attentive. The labyrinth also represents the idea of destiny or purpose. While it may feel as though we are lost at times, there is often an underlying structure to the labyrinth, an unseen force guiding us toward the center, toward the truth of who we are meant to be. The path we take may not always be linear, and we may find ourselves retracing our steps or making unexpected turns. But there is a sense that the labyrinth is leading us toward something greater. Our purpose is not necessarily to find the quickest way out, but to discover the wisdom and strength we gain along the way. As we move through the labyrinth of life, we learn that the journey itself is where the meaning lies. The twists, the turns, the challenges, and the growth all contribute to who we are and what we become. Life's labyrinth is not about reaching the center or escaping. It's about embracing the process of navigating it, learning from it, and evolving through it. At the center of the labyrinth, some might expect to find an answer, a final destination, or a moment of clarity. But perhaps the true center of the labyrinth is not a place, but a realization that the journey is the purpose. Life is a labyrinth because it is ever-changing, ever-evolving, and never fully understood. The key is not to find a way out, but to find the courage to keep walking, even when the way seems unclear. And in doing so, we might discover that the labyrinth itself is not a prison, but a profound opportunity for growth, self-discovery, and transformation. The idea that the universe might be a dream has captivated the minds of philosophers, writers, and thinkers for centuries. It presents a deeply profound, yet unsettling perspective on the nature of reality. If the universe is a dream, then what does that say about our existence? Are we mere projections of some greater consciousness, drifting through an imagined world? Or is there something more to our lives than meets the eye? This question challenges the very foundation of what we consider real. urging us to reconsider the nature of perception, existence, and the very fabric of reality itself. To entertain the idea that the universe is a dream is to delve into the notion of reality as something subjective, fluid, and impermanent. Just as dreams can shift unpredictably, taking us from one scene to another without clear logic or continuity, so too does life often seem to unfold in ways that defy explanation. We experience moments of clarity and moments of confusion, times of joy and sorrow, all intertwined in a web of events that seem to happen to us, not always because of us. The universe, from this perspective, becomes a vast, ever-shifting dreamscape, one that feels undeniably real in the moment, but elusive upon reflection. In many ways, our understanding of the universe is like trying to grasp the intangible threads of a dream. We can observe, measure, and study its components, yet it always seems just out of reach, constantly evading our full comprehension. Science provides us with powerful tools to explore the laws that govern the universe. But despite our best efforts, there are still countless mysteries that remain unsolved. This sense of mystery, of something beyond our understanding, evokes the feeling of a dream in which the rules are not fixed, and the boundaries between the possible and impossible blur. The idea that the universe is a dream also calls into question the nature of perception. In a dream, our senses are often unreliable. We may see things that aren't there, hear sounds that have no source, or experience events that make no logical sense. Yet, in the moment, these experiences feel just as real as anything we encounter in waking life. The universe, from this standpoint, could be seen as a collective dream, a shared experience that, while seeming tangible and consistent, might ultimately be as fleeting and transient as the images and feelings that arise in our sleep. This raises another profound question. If the universe is a dream, then who is the dreamer? Is there a greater consciousness or intelligence that is dreaming this reality, or is the dream self-contained, emerging from the interplay of countless individual minds and experiences? Some philosophies, such as idealism or solipsism, suggest that reality is, in fact, a product of the mind. From this perspective, the universe could be the manifestation of a single, dreaming consciousness, and everything within it, including ourselves, might be merely projections of this mind. This notion brings with it an unsettling implication. If we are nothing more than projections in someone else's dream, then does our existence have any inherent meaning or purpose? Are we simply actors in a play that is not our own, following a script we did not write? The idea of the universe as a dream suggests that everything we experience, our relationships, our achievements, our struggles, might be illusory in nature. But this does not necessarily render our experiences meaningless. After all, in dreams, even the most fleeting and nonsensical moments can carry deep emotional resonance. Perhaps the value of our existence, then, lies not in its objective reality, but in the way we experience it, the emotions we feel, and the lessons we learn along the way. Consider the feeling of déjà vu, the strange sense that we have been in a particular moment before, as if the present is somehow echoing a past that we cannot fully remember. In the context of a dream, déjà vu becomes a reminder of the fluidity and circular nature of existence. Just as dreams can repeat themselves or echo similar themes, so too might our lives follow patterns that we don't fully understand, yet which resonate deeply within us. This sense of recurrence may be a clue that the universe is not merely a linear series of events, but a cyclical, ever-changing dream in which we are caught. Additionally, the fact that we experience time in a linear fashion during our waking life does not necessarily mean that time operates this way in the dream realm. Dreams often bend or suspend time, with events occurring at an accelerated pace, or with hours feeling like minutes. In a universe that operates like a dream, time may not be as rigid as we perceive it to be. Events in the past and future could exist simultaneously, and the concept of linear time might be an illusion created by our minds to make sense of the world around us. If the universe is a dream, then perhaps time is simply a construct, a narrative thread woven into the fabric of our experience to give it structure and meaning. The universe as a dream also brings attention to the role of consciousness in shaping reality. In dreams, our minds are able to create entire worlds from nothing. We can travel to distant lands, interact with people we've never met, and experience emotions that seem entirely real, all within the confines of our own mind. If the universe is indeed a dream, then it suggests that consciousness has the power to shape and manifest the world around us. What if our collective consciousness is the force that holds the universe together, that creates the very reality we experience? In this sense, the dreamer and the dream are inseparable, each one dependent on the other for its existence. This concept also ties into the idea of interconnectedness. If the universe is a dream, then perhaps all of us, every living being, every object, every thought, are part of a larger interconnected whole. Just as the characters in a dream are not separate from the dreamer, but are all manifestations of the same mind, so too might we be interconnected with one another, with the earth, and with the universe itself. The boundaries between us and the world around us may be illusory, and we may be more deeply connected to the fabric of existence than we realize. Of course, the idea that the universe is a dream is not without its criticisms. It challenges our deeply held beliefs about reality, meaning, and the nature of existence. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of consciousness, our place in the cosmos, and the purpose of life. But even if we reject the notion that the universe is a dream, it remains a compelling lens through which to examine the mysteries of existence. It reminds us that reality is not always as it seems, and that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving. Like a dream, the universe is elusive, mysterious, and full of wonder, inviting us to explore its depths with curiosity and awe. In the end, the universe as a dream is a concept that invites us to question everything we think we know about reality. It encourages us to consider the possibility that life, as we experience it, might be far more fluid, interconnected, and transient than we ever imagined. Whether or not the universe is truly a dream may be impossible to answer, but in contemplating this question, we open ourselves to new ways of thinking about our place in the cosmos and the nature of the reality we inhabit. The last thought you'll have. It is an idea that carries profound weight, as it represents the final piece of consciousness, the last fragment of the self before the inevitable transition into whatever lies beyond life. The concept of this final thought speaks to something universal, a shared human experience that we all must eventually face. It brings to the forefront the fragility of life and the uncertainty that surrounds our final moments, asking what that final thought might be and what it says about the way we lived. There is an inherent mystery in the notion of the last thought. What will it be? Will it be a sudden realization, a moment of clarity that reveals the answers to the questions we've spent a lifetime asking? Or will it be a quiet reflection, a fleeting image, or an unresolved fragment of the past? The very idea of this thought being the last one, the final tether to our consciousness, evokes a sense of finality that is both haunting and deeply human. The nature of this last thought could be influenced by countless factors: the life we lived, the choices we made, the people we loved, and the experiences that shaped us. It could be a thought about the loved ones we are leaving behind, a memory of a moment that defined us, or perhaps an acknowledgement of the inevitability of death itself. It might even be a question, something unresolved, lingering just beyond our reach as we slip away from the world. The thought could be as simple as, "What happens next?" or as complex as, "Did I live a meaningful life?" It could be profound or mundane, but it will be uniquely ours, reflecting the essence of who we were in our final moments. Some might imagine that in our last moments, we experience a kind of mental clarity, a rapid review of our lives, a snapshot of all the significant moments and decisions that defined us. This could be a sort of mental summing up, an evaluation of the person we became, the impact we had, and the things we left unsaid. Perhaps in that instant there will be no regret, no fear, only acceptance and understanding of the journey we undertook. In the final moments, we might realize that everything was as it was supposed to be, and that even the struggles and pain were part of the larger picture, integral to the growth and experience of being human. Alternatively, that last thought could be filled with questions that were never answered, the mysteries of life and existence that will remain unsolved. In this case, the thought would not offer closure or resolution, but a quiet, unspoken recognition of the things that we will never fully comprehend. The search for meaning may remain unfinished, and the final thought might be a lingering query, a recognition that some aspects of life are simply beyond our understanding. The last thought could also be a reflection of what we truly value. In life, we often become consumed by external pressures, work, social expectations, achievements, and lose sight of the deeper things that matter most: love, connection, kindness, and our relationships with others. In our final moments, those external concerns may fall away, leaving only the core truths we held dear. Perhaps the last thought will be a tender memory of someone we loved, a reflection on a quiet moment of peace, or a realization of what truly mattered most in the end. What if the last thought we have is a moment of profound acceptance? The awareness that death is not an enemy to fight, but a natural part of the cycle of life, something that is as inevitable as birth itself. It might be a thought of surrender, a peaceful acceptance of the unknown, recognizing that the story does not end with our departure. Perhaps there's an understanding that life, with all its pain and beauty, is just one chapter in a larger narrative, one that continues even after we are gone. The last thought could be the release of fear, the letting go of the self, and the embrace of whatever comes next. The concept of the last thought also invites us to consider how we live our lives, knowing that each moment we experience is fleeting and that one day we will reach an endpoint where everything we know will be left behind. How do we choose to spend our time? The thought of our final moments, of the fleeting nature of existence, can inspire us to live with more intentionality, to make the most of the time we have. The last thought, after all, is not simply a reflection of the end. It is a culmination of everything that came before it. It is the last piece of the puzzle that we have been assembling throughout our lives, and how we approach our journey influences the shape that final piece will take. In some ways, our last thought might be the embodiment of our legacy, the last expression of who we were and what we believed. If we leave behind a legacy of love, compassion, and understanding, it is possible that those qualities will be reflected in that final thought, as we reflect on the relationships and connections that gave our lives meaning. On the other hand, if we leave a legacy of bitterness, regret, or unresolved conflict, it is possible that our last thought will be one of lingering dissatisfaction, a realization that there were opportunities we missed or choices we wish we had made differently. The nature of the last thought also raises questions about the nature of consciousness itself. In the moments before death, when our physical body is failing, what happens to the mind? Does consciousness continue to exist in some form beyond the final breath? The last thought could be an indication of what happens when we cross that threshold between life and death. Is there a lingering sense of awareness, a final thought that lingers in the space between life and whatever comes after? Or does consciousness simply fade away, with no more thoughts, no more awareness, just the silence of the end? Even though we cannot know for certain what our last thought will be, contemplating it can offer valuable insights into how we live our lives today. By reflecting on what we hope that last thought will be, we can better understand our values, our priorities, and our desires. We can strive to live a life that aligns with our truest sense of purpose, so that when that moment comes, we can face it with peace and acceptance, knowing that we have lived fully and authentically. The question, "Are you still the same person?" seems simple at first glance, yet it delves into the depths of identity, change, and the nature of the self. It is a question that challenges our understanding of who we are, how we evolve, and whether our identity remains constant or is continuously reshaped by time, experiences, and the passage of life. At its core, this question invites us to reflect on the continuity of our existence, the aspects of ourselves that remain unchanged, and those that transform over time. We are often taught to think of ourselves as stable entities, consistent in our personalities, values, and identity. However, when we look more closely, the idea of a fixed self begins to dissolve. People change over time, both consciously and unconsciously, shaped by the experiences, relationships, and environments they encounter. What we believed in yesterday may no longer hold true today. Our passions and interests evolve, our perspectives shift, and even the way we perceive the world changes as we grow older. So, are we still the same person we were years ago, or have we become someone new entirely? One way to approach this question is by examining the notion of the self as a fluid, ever-evolving concept. We are constantly influenced by external circumstances, our interactions with others, and the internal processes of growth and self-reflection. What we think of as us is a dynamic amalgamation of all these factors. Perhaps the self is not a static thing, but a collection of experiences that shift over time, with each new event leaving an imprint on who we are and who we become. In this sense, we are not the same person from one moment to the next, but instead a series of evolving versions of ourselves. The you of today may carry traces of the past, but it is also marked by all the changes, growth, and adaptation that have occurred along the way. At the same time, there is something undeniably consistent about our sense of self. While we may change in countless ways, there are core elements of our identity that persist. These could be our fundamental values, our essential traits, or the parts of us that form the basis of how we interact with the world. In moments of reflection, we may recognize certain patterns of thought, behavior, or emotion that have always been a part of us. These enduring qualities create a sense of continuity, offering us a thread of consistency as we navigate the fluidity of life. So, while we may change in many ways, there are aspects of our essence that remain constant, allowing us to maintain a sense of identity through time. The idea of the self as an evolving entity brings us to the question of memory. Memory plays a central role in shaping our understanding of who we are. It is through our memories that we link our past selves with the present and anticipate our future selves. Without memory, we would have no sense of continuity, no way of recognizing the person we were yesterday or even moments ago. Yet memory is not a flawless record of events. It is malleable, prone to distortion and selective recall. Our memories evolve over time, shaped by the way we interpret our experiences. As we change, our recollection of past events may shift, sometimes altering the way we view our former selves. If our memories are not fixed, then how can we rely on them as proof of our identity? Are we still the same person if the way we remember our past changes? Perhaps the most profound aspect of this question lies in the recognition that the very concept of self may be an illusion. Philosophers, particularly those from Eastern traditions, have long argued that the sense of a permanent, unchanging self is an illusion. According to these teachings, the self is not a solid, permanent entity, but a constantly shifting and impermanent collection of thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This perspective challenges the idea that we are the same person over time, suggesting instead that we are fluid, interconnected with the world, and ever-changing. From this view, the question, "Are you still the same person?" is not about comparing a static identity to the present, but about recognizing that the person you think you are is an ongoing process, one that is never truly the same from moment to moment. This perspective is also echoed in modern psychology, which suggests that our identity is constructed, not fixed. Our sense of self is shaped by our interactions with others, our choices, and our sense of purpose. It is a complex, multifaceted construct that is influenced by both conscious and unconscious forces. Who we are is not determined by any single factor, but is the result of a web of influences that change over time. We may evolve in unexpected ways, discovering new passions, shedding old identities, or questioning long-held beliefs. And yet, despite all this change, there remains a desire to feel consistent, to make sense of our evolving self. The question of identity is also intricately tied to our relationships with others. We are not isolated beings, but are deeply connected to the people around us. Our identity is, in many ways, shaped by our interactions with others and how they perceive us. As we grow and change, so too do our relationships, and in turn, these relationships influence who we become. People who were once central to our lives may drift away, while new connections form, bringing new perspectives and insights. The people we encounter, friends, family, mentors, and even strangers, help shape our sense of self, either confirming our existing identity or challenging us to reimagine who we are. So, as our relationships evolve, so too does our identity, creating a fluid dynamic between self and other. Yet, even as we change, there is often a part of us that yearns for stability and continuity. We may find comfort in certain aspects of our identity that seem unchangeable. Our name, our family background, our cultural roots. These provide a sense of grounding in a world that is constantly shifting. The tension between the desire for continuity and the reality of change creates a paradox, one that we must navigate throughout our lives. We may hold on to certain aspects of our past selves while also embracing the opportunities for growth and reinvention that come with change. The silence of a distant star. It is a thought that stirs both awe and introspection, inviting us to consider not just the vastness of the universe, but also the profound isolation that exists within it. Stars, burning for billions of years, exist in the farthest reaches of space, emitting light that travels across unimaginable distances, yet their silence speaks volumes. It is a silence that echoes through the cosmos, a silence that exists both in the physical absence of sound in space and in the profound sense of solitude that comes from contemplating such an immense, distant entity. Stars are often symbols of hope, guidance, and wonder. They light the night sky, offering a sense of direction and mystery. For thousands of years, humans have looked to the stars for meaning, whether to navigate the seas, guide their lives, or search for answers about existence itself. And yet, despite their brilliance, stars remain silent. Their light reaches us, sometimes after traveling for millions of years, but the space between them and us is devoid of any sound. Space is a vacuum, and in that vacuum, sound cannot travel. In a very real sense, the silence of a distant star is a result of the very nature of the universe itself, where the cosmic vastness is defined not just by the distance we measure but by the absence of auditory sensation. But the silence of a distant star represents more than just the lack of sound. It is a metaphor for the vast, uncharted expanse of the universe. Each star is an island in a sea of darkness, separated by immeasurable distances, each alone in its own way. When we look into the night sky, we see a collection of points of light, each one with its own history, its own trajectory, and yet none of them seem to speak to us directly. They communicate through the light they emit, but the space between us and them is silent. The light we see is often a glimpse of the past, a reminder that the universe is not as it is now, but as it once was. The stars themselves are distant, unreachable, and their silence speaks to our own human limitations. This silence is not merely an absence, but a presence in itself. It challenges our assumptions about communication and connection. In a world where we are constantly surrounded by noise, be it the chatter of conversation, the hum of machines, or the buzz of constant information, we rarely consider the power of silence. Yet, silence can be profound. It is in silence that we are often forced to confront our own thoughts, to reflect on our existence and place in the world. The silence of a distant star invites us to do just that. It asks us to consider the vastness of the universe, our own relative insignificance, and the fundamental nature of existence itself. What does it mean to be a fleeting moment in the life of the cosmos? What is our purpose when we are but a whisper in the endless night, surrounded by silence? In some ways, the silence of a distant star serves as a reminder of the transient nature of all things. Stars themselves, despite their apparent permanence, have finite lifetimes. They burn brightly for millions or billions of years before their energy fades, and they are eventually extinguished in violent supernovae or collapse into black holes. The light from a distant star that reaches us today may have been emitted long before humanity ever existed, and it will continue to travel across space long after we are gone. The silence of that distant star speaks to the ephemerality of all things, both in the vastness of space and in the briefness of human life. It is a humbling realization that, despite our achievements and struggles, the universe continues on, indifferent to our presence, untouched by our concerns. And yet, even in this silence, there is beauty. The light of these stars reaches us, sometimes after traveling for eons, reminding us that even in the most profound isolation, there is still connection, however faint and distant. The silence of a distant star can also symbolize the limits of our understanding. For all our technological advancements, our ability to explore the cosmos remains limited. We have sent probes to the farthest reaches of our solar system, and we can detect the faintest signals from distant stars and galaxies, but we have not yet found a way to truly connect with the stars themselves. They remain silent, offering us only their light and their gravitational influence. We can observe their behavior, study their composition, and track their movements, but we cannot reach them, touch them, or communicate with them in the way we might wish. In many ways, the silence of a distant star is a reminder of the boundaries of human knowledge and experience. There is still so much that is unknown, so much beyond our grasp, and yet the silence of the cosmos invites us to keep searching, to keep reaching, even when the answers are not immediately apparent. This silence also speaks to the possibility of other forms of life in the universe. The vastness of space, the billions of stars in the galaxy alone, suggests the potential for life elsewhere, though the silence from these distant stars, if they do harbor life, remains deafening. We search the skies for signs of other civilizations, listening for radio signals or scanning for patterns that might indicate intelligence. But so far, the universe remains silent. The silence of a distant star could be interpreted as the absence of other voices, a reminder of how little we truly know about the potential for life beyond Earth. Are we truly alone in this vast expanse, or are there other civilizations like us waiting for their moment in the cosmos? The silence invites us to consider these questions, even as it leaves them unanswered. In a more personal sense, the silence of a distant star can also reflect the moments in our own lives when we feel distant, isolated, or unheard. We all experience moments where we feel far removed from others, where our thoughts, struggles, or joys go unnoticed or unacknowledged. In these moments, the silence of a distant star resonates within us, reminding us that sometimes, despite our best efforts, we remain far from others, our voices lost in the void. Yet, even in this silence, there is the possibility of meaning. Like the light of distant stars, our presence in the world can have an impact, even if it is not immediately recognized or acknowledged. Our lives, like the stars, may burn brightly for a time, casting light into the darkness before fading away. And perhaps it is in the very nature of this fleeting, silent existence that we find meaning. The silence of a distant star is, in the end, a paradox. It is both a reminder of our insignificance and a testament to the beauty of the universe. It is a symbol of the limits of our understanding, and yet it beckons us to explore further, to seek out the mysteries that lie beyond. It challenges us to reflect on our place in the cosmos, to consider the vast distances that separate us from the stars, and to find meaning in the quiet moments that connect us to the universe. Even in silence, there is a deep, resonant truth. The silence of a distant star is a reminder that, despite all the noise of the world, there is something eternal, something vast, something that exists beyond us, and that is both humbling and awe-inspiring. Would you change the past? It is a question that has lingered in the minds of philosophers, storytellers, and thinkers for centuries, often evoking a sense of nostalgia, regret, or even curiosity. The past is something that we cannot alter, yet the idea of having the power to change it remains an alluring and tantalizing thought. It speaks to our desire for control, for the ability to right our wrongs, correct our mistakes, and perhaps shape a more ideal version of our lives. But, as with any such thought, the implications of altering the past are far more complex and layered than we might first imagine. On the surface, the appeal of changing the past is obvious. It offers the promise of redemption, the chance to undo moments of pain, loss, or regret. If we could go back and make different choices, would we be able to avoid the mistakes that led to suffering, whether personal or to those around us? Would we be able to save relationships that have since crumbled, alter the course of events that have had a lasting impact on our lives, or simply avoid the wrong turn we took at a crucial crossroads? The human instinct to seek a better version of ourselves or our lives is deeply ingrained. We often look back and wonder what could have been had we acted differently, made different choices, or known then what we know now. There is a sense of possibility, of hope, in the idea that, given the chance, we could change the course of our lives for the better. Yet, the question of whether we should change the past is far more complicated than it first appears. For one, changing the past would require us to reconsider the very fabric of reality. The past, as we know it, is an immutable collection of events, decisions, and actions that have shaped our present. If we were to alter even the smallest detail, it could send ripples through time, affecting everything that came after it. Every decision we made in the past was influenced by the circumstances, emotions, and information we had at that moment. To change the past would be to disrupt the entire chain of events that led to the person we are today. In doing so, we might lose aspects of ourselves that have come from those struggles, those mistakes, and those experiences. The question then becomes, would we truly be the same person if we rewrote our past? Moreover, the very idea of changing the past suggests a belief in a fixed timeline that can be manipulated. This idea is often explored in science fiction, where characters travel back in time and attempt to alter events. But the implications of such changes are rarely as simple as they seem. In many of these stories, even the smallest alteration to the past can have catastrophic consequences, creating paradoxes or unintended outcomes that ripple through time. The more we tamper with the past, the more we risk destabilizing the future. The idea that changing the past might lead to unforeseen consequences raises an important philosophical point. Can we truly understand the full scope of the ramifications of our actions? Even if we could change the past, would we have the wisdom to make those changes without inadvertently causing harm in other areas of our lives or the lives of others? There is also the ethical dilemma of who gets to decide what aspects of the past should be changed. If we could alter our past, who would we be doing it for? Would it be for our own benefit or for the benefit of others? The concept of changing the past raises questions about responsibility and the consequences of our actions. Would we be justified in rewriting our past if it meant that we could avoid harm or suffering? And if we did so, would we be denying others the opportunity to learn from their mistakes just as we did? The choices we make are not isolated from those around us. Every decision we make, every action we take, ripples out and impacts the world. Changing the past for our own benefit might be tempting, but it could also be selfish and short-sighted. The idea of changing the past also begs the question of how much control we really have over our lives. We often think that if we could just go back and change a few things, we could shape our future in a better way. But the truth is that the past is not something we can control, and neither is the future. Our lives are shaped by a complex web of circumstances, choices, and influences, many of which are beyond our comprehension or control. The past is gone, and the future is unknowable. The only thing we have is the present moment, the choices we make right now, and how we respond to the events that unfold in our lives. The notion of changing the past may be an illusion, a desire to rewrite our story, but it ultimately distracts us from the power we have in the present. Instead of looking back with regret or longing to change what we cannot, perhaps the more important question is how we can use the present to create a future we are proud of. What is perhaps most compelling about the question of changing the past is the recognition that the past is not as fixed as it seems. While we cannot literally go back in time and alter the events that have already occurred, we do have the ability to change our relationship with the past. We can choose how we interpret our past experiences, how we view our mistakes and regrets, and how we allow those experiences to shape us moving forward. In a sense, the past is malleable, not in the events themselves, but in the way we carry them with us. By reframing our past, by finding meaning in the struggles and challenges we faced, we can alter the way we experience them in the present. This kind of transformation allows us to change the effect our past has on us, even if we cannot change the events themselves. The unwritten chapter of your life is one of the most intriguing concepts to contemplate. It is a chapter that exists in potential, a space between what has already transpired and what is yet to come. Unlike the pages we have already lived, filled with experiences and decisions, this chapter remains untouched, a blank slate. It is an invitation to imagine the possibilities that could unfold and a reminder of the mystery that still surrounds the future. We often think of our lives as linear, a story that progresses from one event to the next. But in truth, the unwritten chapter is the most significant part of the story, the part that holds the greatest potential for transformation, growth, and discovery. there's something uniquely powerful about the unwritten chapter. It represents the unknown, the possibilities that have yet to be realized. Every choice we make, every decision we take, influences what comes next. And yet, no matter how many paths we explore, the unwritten chapter remains elusive, reminding us that our lives are not entirely determined by what has come before. The past is a series of events we cannot change, but the future, the unwritten chapter, is still ours to shape. This realization can be both freeing and overwhelming. The future is uncertain, yes, but it is also full of infinite possibilities. What will we write in the pages ahead? Will we choose the familiar, or will we take risks, venture into the unknown, and see where life leads us? The unwritten chapter also holds a certain weight. It is the chapter that is still full of hope, promise, and potential. But it is also the chapter where we are most vulnerable. The unknown can be daunting, and the pressure to shape the future can feel overwhelming. There is a tendency to focus on what we haven't done yet, the things we wish we had accomplished or experienced by this point in our lives. The unwritten chapter can become a source of anxiety, as we wonder if we are moving in the right direction, or if we will ever fulfill the dreams we have set for ourselves. But in reality, the unwritten chapter is not a burden to bear, but an opportunity to embrace. It is a space where we can rewrite the narrative of our lives, where we can redefine who we are and what we want to become. What we do with the unwritten chapter depends on how we view it. Do we see it as a continuation of what has already happened, simply more of the same? Or do we see it as a space for transformation, for reinvention? There is a beauty in the idea that the future is not predetermined. We are not bound by the choices we made in the past, and we do not have to live in the shadow of previous chapters. The unwritten chapter is a chance to take a different path, to experiment, to fail and try again. It is a place for new beginnings, where anything is possible, and where the story of who we are can evolve into something entirely new. Yet, while the unwritten chapter offers the promise of change, it also brings with it the recognition that we cannot predict what lies ahead. We may have ideas, goals, and aspirations, but the future is never entirely within our control. Life has a way of surprising us, of throwing us curveballs we never saw coming, and sometimes these unexpected events lead to the most profound transformations. The unwritten chapter is not a place where we can script every detail. It is a place where we must allow room for uncertainty, for the twists and turns that shape our lives in ways we cannot anticipate. The question then arises: how do we approach the unwritten chapter? Do we approach it with fear, clinging to the safety of what we know, afraid of making a mistake or venturing too far from what feels comfortable? Or do we embrace it with curiosity and excitement, knowing that the unknown holds the potential for growth, learning, and discovery? The unwritten chapter requires us to be brave. It asks us to trust ourselves and our ability to navigate whatever comes our way. It asks us to let go of the illusion of control and to embrace the uncertainty that life brings. In many ways, the unwritten chapter is the most authentic part of our story. The pages that have already been written are influenced by our past, shaped by the experiences, choices, and circumstances that have come before. But the unwritten chapter is still unmarked, untouched by the expectations and constraints of the past. It is where we have the most agency, the most freedom. It is where we can tap into our true potential and create something meaningful. The unwritten chapter is where we become the author of our own story, where we decide what our legacy will be, not based on what has already been done, but on what we choose to do in the future. But this does not mean that the unwritten chapter is a place of limitless freedom. There are constraints, challenges, and limitations that we face in life. Our circumstances, our resources, and our time all shape what we can do in the future. Yet, within these limitations there is still room for creativity and agency. The unwritten chapter is not an empty promise. It is a space filled with potential, but also with responsibility. We have the power to make decisions, to choose how we respond to challenges, and to shape the direction of our lives. It is up to us to decide how we want to write this chapter, even if the exact outcome remains uncertain. The beauty of the unwritten chapter lies in its openness. It is a chapter that invites us to dream, to imagine, to hope. It reminds us that we are not defined solely by the past, but that we have the power to shape our future. It challenges us to step into the unknown, to trust ourselves, and to embrace the possibility of change. The unwritten chapter is where we get to decide who we want to be, what we want to accomplish, and how we want our story to unfold. It is a reminder that life is not just a passive experience. It is an active process of creation where each choice, each step, and each decision shapes the narrative that will ultimately define who we are. The brain naming itself is a concept that sparks deep curiosity and reflection. It is, in many ways, the ultimate act of self-awareness. An act of the mind reflecting upon itself, observing its own processes, and giving them meaning. In our day-to-day lives, we often take for granted the incredible complexity of the brain. It controls every thought, every action, every emotion, and yet it is itself incapable of fully understanding the depth of its own operations. To say that the brain names itself is to consider how the mind has not only evolved to understand the world, but also to comprehend its own existence within that world. In a sense, the brain naming itself is an exercise in abstraction. We have the ability to identify and label the elements of our experience, names for objects, ideas, emotions, and even ourselves. But how does the brain know what to name? How does it come to understand that a tree is a tree, a thought is a thought, or an emotion is happiness? The process of naming is an essential part of how we make sense of the world. It allows us to communicate, to organize information, and to relate to one another. But the brain's most complex act of naming is its ability to label its own processes, thoughts, feelings, and even the very act of thinking. This self-reflection begins with language itself. Language is the tool by which we interpret and understand our reality. But language is not just a passive thing. It is an active process that allows us to reflect upon and make sense of our experiences. When we think, we are constantly drawing upon the language we have learned to categorize the world around us. However, language is also the means by which we name our internal experience, our thoughts and feelings. We think in words, and those words shape our understanding of the world, our identity, and even the very thoughts we are having. What is fascinating is the idea that the brain itself must first be aware of its own processes before it can assign names to them. This requires a high degree of self-awareness, a consciousness that is capable of not only experiencing the world, but also reflecting upon its own experiences. The brain is constantly interpreting and processing information, creating a continuous loop of perception, cognition, and response. But in order to truly understand these processes, the brain must develop a way to label them, to categorize them, and to make sense of them. This act of naming, of giving form to thought, is an essential aspect of what makes us human. It allows us to think about our thoughts, question our beliefs, and engage in higher-level reasoning. The brain naming itself is an ongoing process, one that allows for growth, evolution, and greater understanding. At its core, the brain naming itself is also an act of self-definition. In the process of naming, we are essentially defining who we are. The names we give to our thoughts and experiences shape how we understand ourselves. The concept of self is formed in part by the language we use to describe it. We say, I am happy, I am angry, I am afraid. And through these labels, we come to know who we are. In this way, the brain does not simply perceive the world, it constructs it. It creates a narrative about who we are, what we are experiencing, and what the world means. The naming of thoughts, emotions, and experiences is how the brain builds a coherent sense of self. This process is not without its complexities. The brain naming itself is not always a straightforward or accurate process. The labels we assign to our thoughts and experiences are shaped by culture, society, and personal history. Our perceptions of ourselves are often influenced by external factors, by the way we have been taught to view the world, and by the expectations placed upon us by others. In some cases, the labels we assign to our thoughts and emotions may not fully capture the nuance or complexity of the experiences we are having. The brain naming itself is not infallible. It is an ongoing negotiation between perception, language, and understanding. Our awareness of this fact can lead to greater self-reflection and an openness to redefining how we see ourselves. One of the most intriguing aspects of the brain naming itself is the recognition that the process of self-reflection is itself a product of the brain's complexity. The more the brain learns, the more it is capable of understanding its own processes. This is why, as we grow older and experience more of life, we develop a deeper sense of self-awareness. Our capacity for introspection, the ability to reflect on our thoughts, feelings, and experiences, grows as we accumulate knowledge and experience. The brain's ability to name itself, to engage in self-reflection, is something that deepens over time. It is a lifelong process, one that evolves with us as we continue to learn and grow. This self-awareness also opens the door to the possibility of change. The brain naming itself means that we are not bound by our current understanding of who we are. We have the power to redefine ourselves, to reshape the labels we assign to our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. This is a powerful tool for personal growth and transformation. If we are able to recognize that our thoughts and experiences are not fixed, that they are constantly being labeled, interpreted, and redefined by the brain, then we gain the ability to change our own narrative. The brain is capable of not just understanding itself, but also altering its own perception of reality. This fluidity in self-perception is what allows us to adapt, grow, and become something new over time. The concept of the brain naming itself also challenges the notion of identity. If the brain is constantly naming and redefining itself, what does it mean to be truly you? Is your identity something that is static, something that can be fully defined by the labels you assign to it? Or is your identity fluid, an ongoing process of self-definition, shaped by the thoughts, emotions, and experiences you encounter? The brain's act of naming itself suggests that identity is not a fixed concept but a dynamic one, subject to change and reinterpretation. The way we think about ourselves is not set in stone but is constantly being reshaped by our experiences, our thoughts, and the language we use to understand them. In the larger context of the universe, the brain naming itself is also a reflection of the mind's attempt to understand its place within the cosmos. As human beings, we have an innate desire to know not only who we are, but also what we are in relation to the world around us. The brain names not just the internal processes of thought and emotion, but also the external world, the objects, people, and phenomena that surround us. Through this process of naming, we construct a mental map of the world, and in doing so, we create meaning. The brain is not merely a passive observer of the universe, but an active participant in the creation of reality itself. The question of whether reality is an illusion or truth is one that has captivated philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. It challenges the very nature of existence, forcing us to question the foundations upon which we build our understanding of the world. Is what we perceive to be true a genuine reflection of the world, or is it a mere illusion, a construct of the mind, shaped by perception and influenced by factors beyond our control? This question does not have a simple answer, and perhaps that is the beauty of it. It invites us to dive deeper into the nature of our own consciousness and explore the mysteries of the universe. On one hand, reality seems to be the most tangible thing we know. We can touch, see, hear, and feel the world around us. We experience time, space, and physical matter as undeniable truths. Yet, even as we interact with the world, we are aware that our perception of it is not always perfect. The way we see the world is shaped by our senses, which are limited and often unreliable. Our eyes, for example, can be fooled by optical illusions, and our minds can be influenced by biases, memories, and expectations. This suggests that what we perceive as reality might not be the objective truth at all. It could be an illusion, a mental representation created by the brain based on incomplete or distorted information. In fact, many philosophers have argued that the reality we experience is an illusion, a product of our minds. The ancient Indian philosophy of Maya, for example, teaches that the world we see is an illusion, veiling the true nature of existence. Similarly, the philosopher René Descartes, in his famous Meditations, questioned the very existence of the physical world, suggesting that the only thing we can be certain of is our own thinking mind. In his view, even the physical world could be a deception, a creation of an evil demon manipulating our senses. While Descartes ultimately concluded that reality exists, his exploration of the mind's potential to deceive us continues to resonate with modern thought. The idea that reality might be an illusion is also echoed in more recent philosophical and scientific theories. For instance, some quantum physicists have suggested that the world we experience is not as solid and real as it appears. The strange behavior of subatomic particles, which can exist in multiple states at once or be entangled across vast distances, suggests that the fabric of reality is far more fluid and uncertain than our everyday experiences might suggest. In this view, what we perceive as solid objects and fixed truths may be a kind of illusion, a macroscopic manifestation of underlying quantum processes that are not fully understood. Moreover, cognitive science and neuroscience have also highlighted the role of the brain in constructing our experience of reality. The brain takes in sensory data from the environment, processes it, and creates a mental model of the world. This model is shaped not only by the sensory information we receive, but also by our memories, emotions, and expectations. In other words, reality is not something we passively receive. It is something actively created by the brain. This means that our perception of reality is subjective and influenced by a variety of factors, from our past experiences to the cultural context in which we live. In this sense, reality could be seen as an illusion, an interpretation of the world that is uniquely constructed by each individual. On the other hand, there is a compelling argument to be made for the idea that reality is, indeed, the truth. Despite the limitations and potential distortions of perception, the world around us seems to function in a consistent and predictable way. The laws of physics, the movement of celestial bodies, and the behavior of matter all suggest that there is an underlying order to the universe that exists independent of our individual minds. When we measure, test, and observe the world through the scientific method, we consistently find patterns and truths that can be verified and replicated. This provides a strong argument for the idea that reality, at least in some sense, is an objective truth that exists outside of our perception. In this view, reality is not an illusion but a complex and intricate system of cause and effect. Our senses, though imperfect, are designed to help us navigate and survive in this world. We may not see everything exactly as it is, but we perceive enough of it to function effectively in our environment. The physical world, with all its objects, forces, and events, seems to operate according to consistent principles that are independent of our subjective experience. Whether or not we are aware of it, reality continues to exist, and the truth of the universe unfolds regardless of our perceptions. Yet, even this view does not entirely dismiss the role of perception in shaping reality. While the physical world may exist independently of us, our experience of it is still filtered through the lens of our senses and our cognitive processes. We may not be able to perceive all aspects of reality, and our brains may interpret information in ways that are influenced by our biology and psychology. But this does not necessarily mean that reality is an illusion. It simply means that our perception of it is incomplete and selective. The truth of reality may be far more complex than we can ever fully comprehend, but that does not invalidate its existence. In considering whether reality is an illusion or truth, we must also take into account the possibility that both perspectives are true in some sense. Reality may be a blend of both illusion and truth, with different layers of existence coexisting simultaneously. Our everyday experience of the world, the objects we touch, the people we interact with, the events we witness, could be a manifestation of a deeper, underlying reality that is not immediately accessible to our senses. This deeper reality might be governed by principles that are beyond our current understanding, and yet, the world we experience may still be meaningful and real in its own way. Perhaps the most profound realization is that the question of whether reality is an illusion or truth may not have a definitive answer. It is a question that invites exploration and contemplation, one that challenges us to think more deeply about the nature of existence, perception, and consciousness. Whether we view reality as an illusion or as the truth, the process of questioning and seeking answers is what deepens our understanding of the world and our place within it. The concept of the energy of a soul is one that touches on deep, existential questions about the nature of consciousness, existence, and the very essence of what it means to be human. In many spiritual traditions, the soul is seen as the core of a person's identity, an eternal, indestructible essence that transcends the physical body. While the soul is often associated with intangible qualities, emotions, thoughts, and consciousness, many believe it also holds a certain kind of energy, a force that shapes and guides an individual's experience of life. But what exactly is this energy, and how can we understand it in the context of both our spiritual beliefs and our everyday lives? The energy of the soul can be thought of as a kind of inner force or vitality that connects us to the greater universe. It is not energy in the scientific, physical sense of the word, but rather a metaphysical energy, a force that transcends the limitations of the material world. It is the energy that allows us to experience life, to feel emotions, to create, to love, and to connect with others. This energy is often described as being inherently positive, life-giving, and transformative. It is what gives us purpose, direction, and motivation, even in the face of challenges and adversity. In many spiritual teachings, the energy of the soul is linked to the concept of a higher self or divine spark. This divine energy is thought to be the source of all consciousness and existence, radiating out from the soul and connecting us to everything around us. In this view, the energy of the soul is not just personal, but universal. It is the same energy that flows through all living beings, the force that connects us to each other, to nature, and to the cosmos. It is the fundamental life force that drives all creation and gives meaning to our existence. Whether one believes in a specific religious tradition or not, the idea of a soul's energy often resonates with the sense that there is something greater than ourselves at work in the universe. But how does the energy of the soul manifest in our lives? While it is difficult to define this energy in concrete terms, it is something that many people feel and experience on a deep, intuitive level. It can be seen in moments of inspiration, in acts of kindness, in creative expression, and in the feeling of connection with others. When we are in touch with the energy of our soul, we often experience a sense of clarity, peace, and purpose. We may feel more aligned with our true selves, and as though we are living in harmony with the world around us. This energy can also be seen in our emotional states. When we are feeling connected to our soul's energy, we may experience a deep sense of joy, love, and compassion. When we are disconnected from that energy, we may feel lost, confused, or apathetic. One of the most fascinating aspects of the energy of the soul is the way it is believed to interact with the physical world. In many traditions, it is thought that the soul's energy is not confined to the body, but extends outward, influencing the world around us. This idea suggests that the soul's energy can be felt not only in our inner experiences, but also in the external world, through our interactions with others and the environment. In this view, our soul's energy is a kind of force field, a presence that emanates from us and impacts the people and circumstances we encounter. This is why some people speak of the energy that others give off, their aura or vibration. The idea is that the energy of the soul radiates from a person, affecting their surroundings and creating an energetic imprint that others can sense. This interaction between the soul's energy and the physical world also raises questions about the potential for transformation and healing. Many spiritual practices and healing traditions focus on cultivating and balancing the energy of the soul. Practices such as meditation, yoga, and energy healing are often centered around the idea of aligning oneself with the soul's energy, clearing blockages, and restoring balance. These practices are believed to help individuals reconnect with their soul's natural energy, allowing them to experience greater peace, health, and vitality. By tapping into this energy, individuals can cultivate a sense of inner harmony and balance that ripples out into the rest of their lives. The energy of the soul can also be viewed through the lens of personal growth and development. As we move through life, we undergo various experiences, some positive, some negative, that shape and refine our soul's energy. In this view, the soul is not a static entity but a dynamic, evolving force. It learns, grows, and transforms over time, adapting to the challenges and lessons that life presents. The energy of the soul is thought to be constantly evolving, shifting, and expanding as we move through different stages of our journey. This process of growth and transformation is often seen as the soul's purpose, the reason it incarnates into a physical body in the first place. In many traditions, the soul is thought to carry with it certain lessons or purposes that it must fulfill during its lifetime. These lessons are often believed to be connected to the soul's energy, influencing the way it interacts with the world and the people around it. The energy of the soul, then, is not just a passive force, but an active agent that drives our growth and evolution. It pushes us toward experiences that will help us learn and evolve, even when those experiences are difficult or painful. In this sense, the energy of the soul can be seen as a guiding force, an inner compass that leads us toward our true purpose and destiny. But what happens when the energy of the soul becomes blocked or stagnant? Many spiritual traditions believe that emotional, mental, or physical blockages can prevent the soul's energy from flowing freely. These blockages may be the result of trauma, fear, negative beliefs, or unresolved emotions. When the energy of the soul is blocked, it can lead to feelings of disconnection, confusion, and stagnation. It can manifest as physical illness, emotional distress, or a sense of being stuck in life. In these cases, it is believed that the soul's energy needs to be cleared, healed, and realigned in order to restore balance and vitality. The energy of the soul is often seen as a source of strength and resilience. When we are in tune with this energy, we are able to face life's challenges with grace and inner strength. We are better able to navigate the ups and downs of life and to find meaning and purpose in our experiences. The energy of the soul provides us with a sense of direction, guiding us through difficult times and helping us stay true to ourselves. It is a reminder that, at our core, we are more than just physical beings. We are spiritual beings with a deep, eternal connection to the universe. The concept of choices we haven't made is a deeply reflective one, inviting us to consider the endless possibilities that exist in every moment and the paths not taken. Life is defined by decisions, both big and small, and each choice we make creates a ripple effect that shapes our experiences and determines the direction of our lives. However, just as powerful as the choices we make are the ones we don't make. The ones left behind, the alternatives not pursued, the options that fade into the background as we commit to one path over another. The question of what could have been haunts us all at some point. What would have happened if we had made a different decision? Would our lives be radically different, or would the consequences have been less dramatic than we imagine? Every moment is filled with an infinite number of potential choices, and each one could lead to an entirely different life. When we think about the choices we haven't made, we begin to realize how much of our reality is shaped by the decisions we did not take. These unmade choices are like parallel universes, each containing a version of ourselves living a different life, one that exists only in the realm of imagination and possibility. It's fascinating to think about the diverging paths we could have walked down, the relationships we could have formed, and the opportunities we could have seized. It's easy to feel regret over choices we didn't make, especially when we see someone else living a life that seems to reflect the choices we never took. Perhaps a friend pursued a career we once considered, or someone we know lives in the city we dreamed of moving to. In these moments, we can't help but wonder how different our lives might have been if we had made the same choices they did. But this line of thinking can be deceptive. The reality is that our lives are shaped by the accumulation of countless decisions, many of which we don't even consciously recognize at the time. Had we made different choices, the entire trajectory of our lives would have shifted, and it's impossible to know what would have resulted. In many ways, the choices we haven't made exist only in our minds as what-ifs. These hypothetical scenarios allow us to explore alternative versions of ourselves and the life we might have lived. Yet, this exercise in imagination can be both enlightening and frustrating. While it can help us see the paths we've missed, it can also make us feel stuck, as though we're haunted by the roads not traveled. These thoughts can create a sense of dissatisfaction with the life we've chosen, causing us to question whether we've made the right decisions. But in truth, we can never fully know what would have happened had we chosen differently. The uncertainty of those paths is part of what makes them so intriguing. The question of choices we haven't made also brings into focus the idea of fate versus free will. Are we simply the sum of the decisions we make, or is there something greater at play? In some philosophical traditions, it's believed that all the choices we make are part of a greater plan or destiny, and that everything happens for a reason. In this view, the choices we haven't made may be just as necessary as the ones we have, each part of the unfolding story of our lives. Conversely, there are those who believe in absolute free will, the idea that every decision we make is ours alone, and that there is no overarching plan guiding our lives. In this view, the choices we haven't made are opportunities that we missed because we didn't take action, and we are solely responsible for the paths we've chosen. In reality, Our experience of unmade choices is often shaped by our emotions and fears. Sometimes we avoid making choices out of fear of making the wrong decision. The fear of regret can paralyze us, making us second-guess ourselves and overthink every potential outcome. In these moments, the unmade choices seem both distant and incredibly close, out of reach, yet still haunting us with the possibility of what could have been. We may wonder if we missed an opportunity, or if we failed to recognize a chance for growth or happiness. But it's important to remember that every decision carries with it an element of uncertainty. The path not taken might seem perfect from where we stand now, but we can never know how we would have felt if we had chosen it instead. The more we reflect on the choices we haven't made, the more we realize how much of our lives are governed by these unchosen possibilities. These potential lives linger in the background, waiting to be revisited in moments of quiet introspection. But it's important to remember that while the choices we haven't made can feel significant, they are not the defining elements of our existence. The life we are living right now is built on the choices we did make, the actions we took, the people we met, the risks we faced. Each of those choices, whether big or small, has shaped who we are today, and it's in our present reality that we have the power to shape our future. Reflecting on the choices we haven't made can also be a tool for personal growth. It invites us to examine what might have driven us to make the decisions we did, and what might have influenced the choices we didn't take. Sometimes, understanding the unmade choices reveals something deeper about our desires, values, and fears. By contemplating these missed opportunities, we can gain insight into ourselves and find new ways to move forward. Perhaps the choices we didn't make were influenced by fear or insecurity, and by recognizing this, we can learn to approach future decisions with greater clarity and confidence. The past is a collection of choices, and while we can't change what has already occurred, we can learn from it to inform the decisions we make going forward. There is also a certain beauty in the unmade choices, as they serve as reminders of the infinite possibilities that exist at every crossroads. Life is full of these moments, where we stand at the edge of the unknown, facing a choice that could alter the course of our lives. But each decision we make inevitably closes off some possibilities, leaving us with a sense of what could have been. It's a paradox of life. We are constantly making choices, yet each choice comes with a sense of loss, because in choosing one path, we let go of the others. This sense of loss is natural, but it doesn't diminish the value of the path we've chosen. The choices we make are part of who we are, and even though we can't always see the results of those unmade choices, they still carry with them the potential for growth and discovery. The connection between stardust and soulmates is a beautifully poetic one, drawing on the mysteries of the universe and the deep, timeless bond between individuals. To think of soulmates as stardust is to evoke a sense of wonder and destiny, suggesting that our connections with others are not just coincidental, but part of a grand cosmic design. The idea that we, as humans, are made of stardust, particles forged in the heart of stars, scattered across the universe, suggests that our very essence is tied to something much greater than ourselves. It brings to light the possibility that our connections with others are just as bound to the stars as we are, that our relationships are written in the fabric of the universe, as if the atoms that make up our bodies once danced in the heart of distant stars. From a scientific perspective, the elements that make up the human body, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and so on, were all created in the cores of stars billions of years ago. These stars exploded, scattering their contents across the universe, and eventually this stardust coalesced into planets, and life was born. In this sense, we are all made of the same material as the stars, and every living being carries a piece of the cosmos within them. This cosmic connection invites us to consider how deeply intertwined we are with the universe, and how the relationships we form may also have a cosmic element, as if our bonds are meant to be, connecting us to each other in ways that transcend time and space. The idea of soulmates as stardust suggests that our connections with others are not merely random, but that there is a deeper, invisible force at work. It hints at the possibility that the people we meet in our lives are not just chance encounters, but individuals with whom we share a cosmic connection, a bond that goes beyond physical attraction or shared interests. These connections may feel like destiny, as if they are written in the stars, guiding us toward each other, no matter the obstacles that may stand in our way. The sense of familiarity and deep connection we experience with certain people, whether through love, friendship, or even fleeting moments, may be the result of this cosmic bond. In a way, the idea of stardust and soulmates is an invitation to see the people we encounter not just as individuals in our immediate reality, but as reflections of the universe itself. Each person we meet carries with them a piece of the same cosmic energy that we do, and when we connect with someone, it's as if two pieces of stardust are coming together to form something greater than the sum of their parts. This connection may be felt deeply, even in moments of silence or distance, as if our souls are reaching out to one another across time and space, seeking to reunite and remember the bond that was once formed in the stars. This cosmic view of soulmates also challenges the conventional idea of soulmates as one perfect person with whom we are destined to be. Instead, it opens up the idea that soulmates are not limited to romantic relationships, but can include friends, family, and even strangers we encounter along the way. Soulmates are not defined by a specific relationship, but by the depth of connection and the way our paths intertwine. In this view, soulmates are not someone who completes us or fulfills our every need, but someone who resonates with our soul on a deep level, someone with whom we share a unique bond that transcends time and space. There's a certain beauty in the idea that we are drawn to certain people, because our souls recognize a connection that predates this lifetime. Whether it's through shared experiences, memories, or simply an undeniable sense of belonging, these connections feel like something greater than ourselves. It's as if our souls are reaching out to one another, drawn together by the gravitational pull of something far beyond our understanding. Just as stardust is scattered across the universe, so too are we scattered, seeking out those with whom we share a deeper connection, as if we're all on a journey to find our way back to one another. The metaphor of stardust and soulmates also speaks to the impermanence of life. Just as stars burn brightly and eventually fade, so too do relationships. The idea of stardust suggests that our connections are both fleeting and eternal, here for a time but part of a greater, unending cycle. The people who come into our lives, whether they stay for a season or a lifetime, leave an imprint on our souls, much like stardust leaves its mark on the universe. Even if we part ways, their energy remains with us, woven into the fabric of who we are, just as the elements forged in the heart of stars remain scattered across the cosmos, forever part of the greater whole. At the same time, the concept of soulmates as stardust reminds us of the vastness of the universe and the infinitude of possibilities. While we may feel an intense connection with certain individuals, there are countless other connections waiting to be made, paths yet to be crossed, and relationships yet to unfold. Each person we meet is like a star in the sky, each one offering a unique light, a different energy, and a new perspective on life. We are all part of the same cosmic dance, each of us searching for meaning, love, and connection, and in some sense we are all soulmates, drawn together by the same universal forces that bind us to the stars. When we look at our relationships through the lens of stardust, we begin to see them not as isolated incidents, but as part of a larger cosmic tapestry. Every interaction, every encounter, no matter how brief or seemingly insignificant, has meaning. We are all stardust, seeking connection, seeking to understand, seeking to remember the ties that bind us to each other and to the universe itself. In this view, soulmates are not just romantic partners, but every person who crosses our path, every soul we connect with on a deep level, however fleeting the moment may be. This perspective also offers comfort in times of loss. When a relationship ends or a person we care about fades from our lives, the idea that we are all made of stardust offers a sense of continuity. Though our physical bodies may separate, the energy we share remains, scattered across the universe, forever part of the greater whole. Just as stardust is eternal, so too are the connections we make, transcending the boundaries of time and space. The concept of the infinite mirror is a powerful metaphor that invites us to reflect on the nature of self, perception, and existence. Imagine standing before a mirror that stretches endlessly, where each reflection shows a new version of yourself. Not just a single image, but an infinite series of you, echoing through time and space. This mirror is not just a tool for looking at your physical self, but a gateway into the depths of your being, a window into the endless potential of who you could be. At its core, the infinite mirror speaks to the idea of self-perception. How we see ourselves is often shaped by a myriad of factors: societal influences, past experiences, relationships, and the ever-changing landscape of our internal world. In this infinite mirror, there are countless versions of ourselves, each one a reflection of a different choice, a different path, a different moment in time. Each reflection invites us to explore the many facets of our identity, the parts of ourselves that are constantly shifting and evolving. One of the most intriguing aspects of the infinite mirror is its ability to show us the infinite possibilities of who we can become. We are not defined by a single, fixed version of ourselves, but by the endless potential that lies within us. The mirror doesn't just reflect who we are in this moment. It reflects who we could be in the future, the person we might become depending on the choices we make. Each reflection is a possibility, a glimpse into an alternate version of ourselves, living a different life, experiencing different emotions, and making different decisions. The infinite mirror challenges the notion of a single, unchanging self, and instead invites us to embrace the idea that we are always in the process of becoming. The infinite mirror also speaks to the concept of self-awareness. When we look into a mirror, we are not only observing our physical appearance, but also reflecting on our inner world. The infinite mirror magnifies this process, encouraging us to look deeper into our own psyche and explore the complexities of our thoughts, emotions, and desires. As we peer into its endless reflections, we may discover aspects of ourselves we have never fully acknowledged or understood. The more we look, the more we realize that our identity is not something static, but something fluid, something that is constantly in flux. We are both the observer and the observed, endlessly reflected back at ourselves, seeing different versions of our own consciousness reflected in the infinite mirror. In many ways, the infinite mirror can be seen as a metaphor for the idea of parallel universes or alternate realities. Each reflection in the mirror represents a different version of reality, a different possibility that exists in a parallel world. These alternate versions of ourselves exist simultaneously, each one living a different life based on different decisions and circumstances. In this sense, the infinite mirror invites us to contemplate the vastness of existence and the idea that our lives are not just defined by one set of circumstances but by countless potentialities. Every choice we make branches out into an infinite number of possibilities, and each possibility exists as a reflection in the mirror. This idea of the infinite mirror also raises questions about the nature of identity. If there are infinite versions of ourselves, each one living a different life, which one is the real us? Are we defined by the person we are today, or by the person we could become in the future? Are we the sum of all our experiences, or are we simply the potential we hold within us? The infinite mirror challenges us to reconsider the idea of a fixed, permanent self, and instead invites us to see ourselves as fluid, dynamic beings, constantly evolving and shifting in response to the world around us. In the context of relationships, the infinite mirror also offers a fascinating perspective. When we interact with others, we often see them through the lens of our own experiences, our own reflections. We project our own desires, fears, and beliefs onto others, and in doing so, we create a version of them that exists only in our own minds. The infinite mirror reminds us that each person we encounter is not just a fixed, unchanging entity, but a reflection of their own complex inner world, full of infinite possibilities. Just as we are constantly shifting and evolving, so too are those around us. The way we see others is often a reflection of our own inner state, and by recognizing this, we can begin to understand the ways in which our perceptions of others are shaped by our own consciousness. The infinite mirror also speaks to the notion of time. As we gaze into the mirror, we are not only seeing multiple versions of ourselves in the present moment, but also glimpsing our past and future selves. Each reflection is a snapshot in time, a moment that exists outside of linear time, where the past, present, and future all coexist. The infinite mirror invites us to reflect on the passage of time and the way it shapes our identity. It challenges the conventional understanding of time as a linear progression, and instead suggests that all moments exist simultaneously, each one reflected in the infinite mirror, each one a possibility, a version of ourselves that is forever accessible. In this sense, the infinite mirror can be a tool for personal growth and transformation. When we look into it, we can see not just who we are, but who we could be. We can glimpse the person we want to become, the potential that lies within us, and the infinite possibilities that exist for our future. The infinite mirror encourages us to explore the depths of our own consciousness, to question our assumptions about who we are, and to embrace the idea that our identity is not fixed, but is constantly unfolding. It challenges us to step outside of our comfort zones and to explore the unknown, knowing that every step we take is a reflection of our potential. At the same time, the infinite mirror reminds us of the interconnectedness of all things. Just as we see multiple versions of ourselves reflected back at us, we are also connected to the reflections of others. The infinite mirror reflects not just our own consciousness, but the consciousness of the world around us. Every person, every experience, every moment is part of the same vast, interconnected web of existence. And by recognizing this, we can begin to see ourselves not as isolated individuals, but as part of the larger whole. The existence of the unseen is a profound concept that challenges our perception of reality and invites us to consider what lies beyond the boundaries of our immediate experience. It speaks to the hidden forces, energies, and dimensions that shape our world, but are not directly visible to the human eye. These unseen aspects of existence often provoke deep contemplation, as they suggest that there is more to life than what we can see, touch, or measure. They encourage us to look beyond the physical world and explore the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface, to ask questions about the unseen realms that influence and govern our lives. The unseen is often associated with the spiritual and metaphysical realms, those aspects of reality that transcend the material world. Many of the world's great philosophies and religions speak of a higher reality, an invisible force or presence that shapes and guides existence. Whether it's the concept of God in religious traditions, the idea of the soul in spiritual beliefs, or the notion of universal energy in metaphysical systems, the unseen is often seen as the source or underlying force of all that exists. These unseen forces may not be directly observable, but they are thought to influence the world in ways that we cannot fully comprehend. They shape our lives, guide our decisions, and connect us to something greater than ourselves. From a scientific perspective, the existence of the unseen can be understood through the concept of invisible forces and energies that govern the physical world. For example, gravity, magnetism, and electromagnetic fields are all forces that cannot be seen directly, but are known to have a profound effect on the way the universe operates. These forces shape the movement of celestial bodies, the behavior of particles, and the dynamics of life on Earth. Yet they remain largely invisible to the human eye. Science has shown us that there is much more to the universe than what we can perceive with our senses, and this realization opens the door to a deeper understanding of the unseen forces that shape our reality. The unseen also extends to the realm of consciousness and the mind. Our thoughts, emotions, and mental states are not directly visible, yet they have a powerful influence on our lives and the world around us. The mind operates on a level that is beyond our immediate awareness, and the thoughts we hold, the emotions we experience, and the beliefs we cultivate all shape the way we perceive and interact with the world. This inner world, though unseen, is just as real as the external world, and it plays a crucial role in determining our experience of reality. Our perceptions, decisions, and actions are influenced by the unseen workings of our consciousness, making it an essential part of the human experience. In the realm of relationships, the unseen is also a powerful force. The emotions, intentions, and energies that we exchange with others often operate beyond the level of conscious awareness. We may not always be able to see the underlying dynamics of a relationship, but we can sense the unspoken currents that flow between us and others. These subtle energies, such as empathy, intuition, and unspoken connection, are often felt more than they are seen. Yet they can have a profound impact on our interactions and the way we relate to those around us. The unseen aspects of relationships, such as love, trust, and understanding, are often what truly bind us together, creating bonds that transcend the physical realm. The unseen is also present in the natural world. Nature is full of forces and phenomena that we cannot directly observe, yet they shape the environment in profound ways. From the microscopic life forms that inhabit the earth to the subtle patterns of weather and climate, there is much about the natural world that remains hidden from our view. We may not always understand the intricate web of life that connects all living things, but we can feel its presence through the rhythms of the seasons, the growth of plants, and the movement of animals. The unseen forces of nature are constantly at work, shaping the world in ways that we may not fully comprehend, but that are essential to the functioning of life on Earth. The existence of the unseen also speaks to the mysteries of the universe. There are vast regions of space that remain unexplored, galaxies that are too distant for us to see, and phenomena that exist beyond the limits of our current technology. The unknown stretches out before us, offering a glimpse into a universe that is far more complex and mysterious than we can imagine. The unseen aspects of the cosmos, the dark matter, dark energy, and unknown forces that govern the universe, are some of the greatest mysteries of modern science. These forces shape the structure and evolution of the universe, yet they remain hidden from our direct observation, challenging our understanding of the cosmos and prompting us to question the very nature of reality. In many ways, the existence of the unseen encourages us to expand our awareness and understanding of the world. It reminds us that there is more to life than what we can see with our eyes and touch with our hands. It invites us to open our minds to the possibility that there are forces, energies, and dimensions beyond our immediate perception that are just as real as the physical world we experience. These unseen aspects of existence encourage us to cultivate a sense of wonder and curiosity about the mysteries of life and the universe, and to embrace the unknown with a sense of humility and awe. The unseen also teaches us about the nature of belief and perception. Often, what we believe to be true is influenced by what we can see and measure, but there are many aspects of reality that lie beyond the realm of direct observation. The unseen invites us to question our assumptions and beliefs about the world, and to recognize that our perceptions are limited by our sensory capabilities. It encourages us to explore the depths of our consciousness and to seek out a deeper understanding of the mysteries that lie beyond the surface. By acknowledging the existence of the unseen, we open ourselves to new possibilities and new ways of thinking, allowing us to see the world in a different light. The journey you haven't taken is a thought that often lingers in the back of our minds, a reflection of all the paths not yet explored, the decisions left unmade, and the possibilities that still remain open. It is a contemplation of what might have been and what still could be. We all experience moments in life where we stand at a crossroads, faced with a choice that could shape the course of our future. The road we choose defines the journey we undertake, but it also leaves behind the one we didn't take. There are many paths in life, and each one offers its own set of experiences, challenges, and growth. The journey you haven't taken is the one that exists in the realm of possibility, a world of what-ifs that teases our imagination and sparks curiosity about the different directions our lives could have gone. This untaken journey is not just about the roads left unexplored in a literal sense. It's also about the parts of ourselves that remain undiscovered, the aspects of our identity that have yet to be fully realized. Each choice we make is a step toward a specific version of ourselves, a person who exists only because of the path we've chosen. But what if we had chosen differently? What version of ourselves would have emerged from a different journey? The journey you haven't taken invites you to reflect on the road not traveled, the life that might have unfolded if you had followed another path, made a different decision, or taken a different risk. It's a reminder that who you are today is the result of countless choices, and each one has shaped you into the person you have become. Yet, the untaken journey also raises the question of regret. It's easy to fall into the trap of wondering how different your life might have been if you had made different choices. But the reality is that those choices are gone, and there is no way to turn back the clock and change them. While it is natural to ponder the paths we didn't take, it is equally important to recognize that the journey you have taken, the one you are currently on, is just as valid, just as significant, and just as meaningful. Regret can paralyze us, making us feel as though we have missed out on something crucial. But in reality, the journey we have embarked upon is the one that has brought us to this moment, and it is the only one we have the power to shape moving forward. The journey you haven't taken is also an exploration of potential. It is about the lives you could have lived, the experiences you could have had, and the person you might have become. It's about recognizing that in any given moment, there are countless opportunities that remain unexplored. Every decision you make closes off some possibilities while opening up others. But even within the choices that have been made, there are countless ways to shape your future. The journey you haven't taken is not a fixed, unreachable destination. It is a reminder that you always have the ability to change direction, to start anew, and to seek out the paths that remain open to you. There is a certain freedom that comes with recognizing that the journey you haven't taken is not a path of missed opportunities, but a path of untapped potential. The key to embracing this untaken journey is not to dwell in the past, but to use it as a source of inspiration for the present and future. What lessons can you learn from the road not taken? What would you do differently if given the chance? By asking these questions, you invite reflection into your life, which in turn allows you to approach the choices you make now with a deeper sense of awareness. It's not about regret, but about understanding that there are always new paths to take, new journeys to embark upon, and new versions of yourself to discover. In the context of relationships, the journey you haven't taken might refer to the connections that were never made, the friendships that never formed, or the love that was never pursued. These untaken journeys can evoke feelings of longing or wonder, especially when you consider the different outcomes that could have arisen from these missed encounters. However, just as with life's decisions, the relationships you have today are the result of the paths you've chosen, and each one has its own value and purpose. The journey you haven't taken in relationships might carry a sense of mystery, but it's important to remember that the relationships you do have, the connections that are present in your life right now, are significant and worth cherishing. The untaken journey is not just an individual experience, but a universal one. Everyone has their own version of the journey they didn't take. It is a shared human experience to wonder about the alternate realities that could have been. This collective sense of missed opportunities binds us together, reminding us that we all face moments of uncertainty, where the direction we choose may not be the one we had imagined. It's in these moments that we must learn to embrace the unknown, to trust in the journey we are on, and to believe that we are exactly where we need to be at this point in our lives. In the larger context of life, the journey you haven't taken invites you to contemplate the nature of time itself. Life is a constantly unfolding journey, and every step you take leads you closer to who you are becoming. But time is fleeting, and we often find ourselves looking back, wondering about the paths we didn't choose. It's important to recognize, however, that time doesn't move in reverse, and we cannot change the past. The journey you haven't taken is an inevitable part of life, a part of the process of living and growing. It's a reminder that every choice, every moment, is an opportunity to explore a new path and to discover something new about yourself. While it's easy to focus on what could have been, it's just as important to appreciate what is. The journey you have taken has led you to this moment, and it is this moment that is the only one that truly matters. The past cannot be altered, but the future remains open and full of possibility. In recognizing the journey you haven't taken, you come to understand that your life is not defined by the paths you did not walk, but by the paths you choose to walk now. Every day is a new opportunity to take a different route, to explore a new journey, and to create new experiences. The world you'll never see is a concept that speaks to the limitations of human perception and the infinite possibilities that exist beyond the scope of our senses. It is a reminder that, despite the advances we've made in science and technology, there are realms of existence that remain beyond our reach. The world you'll never see encompasses all that is hidden from view, all that is beyond the grasp of our eyes, ears, and even our understanding. It is the unseen, the unknown, and the unexplored. The aspects of reality that exist on a scale too small, too far, or too complex for us to fully comprehend. At the most basic level, the world you'll never see is the physical world that exists beyond the limits of our senses. There are countless things in the universe that are too small or too distant for us to observe directly. The vastness of space, for instance, contains stars, planets, and galaxies that are so far away that we may never truly know them. There are microscopic life forms, particles, and forces that shape the fabric of the universe, but they remain invisible to the naked eye. Even with powerful telescopes and microscopes, there are limits to what we can observe, and much of the universe remains hidden from us. These unseen realms represent a world that we will never fully experience, no matter how much we advance in our ability to observe the natural world. Beyond the physical, the world you'll never see also includes the realms of consciousness and experience that lie beyond the reach of the individual mind. Our perceptions of the world are inherently limited by the way our brains process information. We are only capable of experiencing the world in the ways that our senses allow us to. There may be other dimensions of consciousness, other ways of perceiving reality that are beyond our awareness. These realms of experience could offer a completely different view of the world, one that we are unable to access with our current understanding of the mind and consciousness. The world you'll never see, in this sense, represents the possibility of untapped layers of reality that lie beyond the reach of our current cognitive abilities. The world you'll never see also extends to the infinite possibilities of what could have been. There are countless decisions, paths, and actions that we never took, and each one represents a world of experiences that will remain forever beyond our grasp. Every choice we make shapes the course of our lives, but it also closes off the countless other possibilities that might have unfolded had we chosen differently. The relationships we never formed, the careers we never pursued, the adventures we never had, all of these represent alternate worlds that exist only in the realm of imagination and possibility. The world you'll never see, in this sense, is the infinite parallel realities that exist as potential outcomes of the choices we didn't make. In a broader philosophical sense, the world you'll never see is a reminder of the limitations of human existence. As conscious beings, we are bound by the constraints of time, space, and perception. We are born into a specific moment in history, a particular place in the universe, and we experience life through the lens of our own perspective. But there is so much more to existence than what we can see, hear, or understand. There are things happening all around us that we are unaware of, from the movements of atoms and molecules to the subtle energies that govern the universe. The world you'll never see is a reminder that no matter how much we learn, there will always be mysteries beyond our understanding, realms of existence that remain hidden from our view. This hidden world is not only external, but also internal. There are depths to the human mind and soul that we may never fully explore. We all have thoughts, emotions, memories, and experiences that remain buried within us, inaccessible to the conscious mind. The world you'll never see includes the parts of yourself that you may never truly understand. The complexities of the unconscious mind, the hidden motivations behind your actions, and the subtle influences of your past experiences shape who you are in ways that are not always visible or easy to comprehend. These internal realms represent a world that is uniquely yours, but that may remain forever elusive, even to you. The world you'll never see also speaks to the mysteries of the unknown. There are countless things in the universe that are still beyond the reach of human exploration and understanding. From the vastness of deep space to the depths of the oceans, there are realms of the earth and the cosmos that remain unexplored, full of wonders and secrets that may never be revealed. Even within the confines of our own planet, there are places that are inaccessible, hidden away from human eyes. The world you'll never see is filled with the possibility of discovery, the promise of new frontiers that may remain forever out of reach. Yet, the world you'll never see is not something to mourn or lament. Instead, it is an invitation to appreciate the world that you do see, to recognize the richness and depth of the reality you inhabit. The limitations of our perception are not necessarily a curse, but a reminder that life is full of wonder and mystery. The world you'll never see can inspire awe and curiosity, encouraging you to look beyond what is immediately in front of you and to seek out the hidden dimensions of existence that exist all around us. It is a reminder that there is always more to discover, even in the most familiar places, and that every moment of life is an opportunity to uncover something new. The world you'll never see also raises questions about the nature of reality itself. What is real, and how do we know what we know? The limitations of our senses and our understanding suggest that reality may be far more complex and layered than we can imagine. There may be dimensions of existence, both physical and metaphysical, that we cannot perceive but that nonetheless shape the world around us. The world you'll never see challenges us to think beyond the visible and tangible, to embrace the mystery of life, and to recognize that our perception of reality is just one small piece of a much larger, more intricate whole. The unseen world is also a space of possibility. While we may never fully access it, it is always present, quietly shaping our experience of life. It represents the unknown, the untapped potential that exists just beyond the edges of our awareness. This world may never be seen in its entirety, but it continues to influence us in ways we may never fully understand. It is a reminder that life is full of infinite possibilities, and that what we experience is just one version of reality, one perspective among many. The world you'll never see encourages you to embrace the mystery of existence, to live with the understanding that there is always more to discover, even if we can never fully access it. The illusion of separation is a concept that explores the deep-seated belief that we are distinct and separate from one another, from nature, and from the universe as a whole. It speaks to the notion that our individual existence, identity, and experiences are isolated from the collective, creating an artificial sense of division that leads to feelings of isolation, disconnection, and even conflict. The illusion of separation is pervasive in human society, from the way we categorize ourselves into different groups based on nationality, race, religion, and social class, to the way we view the natural world as something separate from us, as if we are observers rather than participants in the grand, interconnected system of life. But beneath the surface of this apparent division lies a deeper reality. We are all part of the same vast, interdependent web of existence. At the heart of the illusion of separation is the idea that our identity is something separate and fixed. We often define ourselves by our thoughts, our bodies, our actions, and our experiences, believing that we are distinct, autonomous beings. This individualistic mindset is reinforced by societal structures, which emphasize personal achievement, competition, and the pursuit of material success. But when we strip away these layers of external identity, we begin to recognize that our existence is inherently interconnected with everything around us. Our bodies are made of the same elements that make up the earth, the stars, and the rest of the universe. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat are all part of the same natural system that sustains life. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions are influenced by countless factors beyond our conscious awareness, from the environment to the people around us, creating a complex network of interconnections that shape who we are. The illusion of separation dissolves when we recognize that we are not isolated, but part of a larger whole. The illusion of separation is not limited to our perception of ourselves, but extends to the way we view others. We tend to categorize people into groups based on factors such as nationality, race, religion, or socioeconomic status, and we create boundaries between us and them. These distinctions foster division, prejudice, and conflict, as we believe that those who are different from us are separate from us, even inferior or threatening in some way. But if we look beyond these superficial differences, we find that the essence of humanity is shared by all. We all experience love, fear, pain, joy, and longing. We all seek connection, purpose, and meaning. At a deeper level, we are all the same, and the boundaries that separate us are nothing more than arbitrary constructs. The illusion of separation is perpetuated by our attachment to these distinctions, but when we transcend them, we can embrace the common humanity that binds us together. The natural world also provides a powerful example of the illusion of separation. Throughout history, humans have viewed nature as something separate from themselves, something to be exploited, controlled, or even feared. We have created a division between humanity and the natural world, seeing ourselves as masters of the earth rather than as an integral part of it. This separation has led to the destruction of ecosystems, the depletion of natural resources, and the loss of biodiversity. But the truth is that we are inextricably linked to the planet and all its creatures. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the materials we use, all of these come from the earth, and they sustain us in ways we often take for granted. We are not separate from nature. We are a part of it. The illusion of separation creates the false belief that we can exist independently of the earth, but in reality, our well-being is intimately connected to the health of the planet and its ecosystems. The illusion of separation also manifests in our relationship with time. We often think of the past, present, and future as distinct, linear segments of reality, as if they are separate from one another. We look back at the past with nostalgia or regret, and we look ahead to the future with anxiety or anticipation, as if these different points in time are isolated from our present experience. But time, like all things, is interconnected. The present is shaped by the past, and it in turn shapes the future. The decisions we make now are influenced by our past experiences, and the future is a continuation of the present moment. The illusion of separation distorts our perception of time, making us believe that we are caught in a linear progression, when in reality, time is cyclical and fluid, constantly flowing and interwoven with all aspects of our lives. On a deeper level, the illusion of separation is rooted in the mind's tendency to create dualities. We categorize the world into opposites: light and dark, good and bad, right and wrong, self and other. These dualities give rise to judgments, comparisons, and conflicts, as we constantly measure ourselves and others against these arbitrary standards. But dualities are not inherent in reality; they are constructs of the mind. In truth, all things are interconnected, and every aspect of life contains both light and dark, good and bad, and self and other. The illusion of separation creates a false dichotomy, making us believe that we must choose one side and reject the other, when in fact the two are inseparable. The realization that dualities are mere illusions allows us to see the world in a more holistic, inclusive way, where all aspects of life are interconnected and interdependent. The illusion of separation also plays a role in our relationship with the divine, or with a higher power. Many people see themselves as separate from God, as if they are distinct individual beings who must strive to connect with the divine. This sense of separation can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and inadequacy, as we feel unworthy of divine love and grace. But in many spiritual traditions, the ultimate truth is that we are one with the divine, and that God or the universe is within us as much as we are within it. The illusion of separation prevents us from fully recognizing our divine nature, but when we release this illusion, we can experience a deep sense of unity and connection with the source of all creation. This recognition of oneness allows us to embrace a more profound spiritual understanding of our existence and to live in harmony with the world around us. In the context of personal growth, the illusion of separation can create a sense of disconnection from our true selves. We often view our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as separate from who we really are, as if our true self is something distinct from our mind and body. This sense of separation can lead to inner conflict, as we struggle to reconcile different aspects of ourselves. But the truth is that we are whole and complete, and that every part of us, our thoughts, feelings, actions, and experiences, is interconnected. By recognizing the illusion of separation within ourselves, we can cultivate greater self-awareness and self-acceptance, and embrace the fullness of who we are. This recognition allows us to live more authentically and in alignment with our true nature. Unconscious actions are those behaviors, reactions, and habits that occur without the deliberate awareness of the individual. They are the actions that we perform automatically, without actively thinking about them, and they often reflect deep-seated patterns of thought, emotion, and experience. While we may think of ourselves as conscious, rational beings who are in control of our actions, much of what we do is governed by forces outside our immediate awareness. The concept of unconscious actions invites us to consider how much of our behavior is shaped by the unseen, by the unconscious mind, and by the vast, complex network of influences that affect us in ways we may not fully understand. One of the most obvious forms of unconscious actions is habitual behavior. We all have routines that we follow every day, whether it's the way we brush our teeth, the way we walk, or the way we interact with others, that become ingrained over time. These behaviors are often performed without much thought, almost as if they have been programmed into us. Habits are a form of unconscious action because they arise from repeated patterns of behavior that are reinforced over time. While we may have consciously chosen to start a particular habit, over time the habit becomes automatic, and we may not even realize we are doing it. This unconscious aspect of habits makes them difficult to change, as they operate below the level of conscious awareness, shaping our lives without us fully recognizing their influence. Another common form of unconscious action is the way we react emotionally to situations. Our emotional responses are often conditioned by past experiences and beliefs, and they can trigger automatic reactions that we are not always aware of. For example, we may react with anger when someone criticizes us, or we may feel anxious when faced with an unfamiliar situation. These emotional reactions can be so ingrained that we don't stop to question them, and they often dictate our behavior without our conscious involvement. The unconscious mind plays a significant role in shaping these emotional responses, and it is only through self-awareness and introspection that we can begin to understand why we react the way we do. Often, our unconscious actions are driven by unresolved emotions or past traumas that influence our present behavior. Unconscious actions are also closely tied to our social and cultural conditioning. From an early age, we are taught how to behave, how to think, and how to relate to others. These lessons become ingrained in our minds, shaping our actions without us even realizing it. For example, we may unconsciously conform to social norms, adopting behaviors that align with the expectations of our family, friends, or society. We may also engage in certain actions to fit in or gain approval, without fully understanding why we are doing so. These unconscious actions are not necessarily a reflection of our true selves, but rather a product of the environment in which we were raised and the values that were instilled in us. Over time, these external influences can shape our behaviors in profound ways, often without our conscious awareness. Another example of unconscious action is the way we communicate. Much of our communication is nonverbal, and many of our gestures, facial expressions, and body language are influenced by unconscious processes. We may smile when we're nervous, cross our arms when we're defensive, or look away when we feel uncomfortable, all without consciously deciding to do so. These unconscious actions are often rooted in our emotions, instincts, and social conditioning, and they can convey more about how we're feeling than our words ever could. In many cases, our unconscious actions can reveal hidden truths about ourselves, our relationships, and our experiences, even when we are not fully aware of them. Understanding these unconscious behaviors can be a powerful tool for self-awareness, as it can help us uncover deeper layers of meaning behind our actions and interactions. Unconscious actions are not limited to emotional or social responses. They can also manifest in cognitive patterns. For example, we may hold certain beliefs or assumptions that guide our thoughts and behaviors without us being consciously aware of them. These beliefs can be shaped by our upbringing, our experiences, and our exposure to various ideas, and they often influence how we perceive the world and make decisions. Our unconscious biases can affect everything from how we interpret information to how we judge others, often without us realizing it. These unconscious cognitive patterns can be particularly insidious because they can lead us to make decisions or take actions that we later regret, all while we believe we are acting rationally. Becoming aware of our unconscious biases and beliefs is an essential step in overcoming them and making more conscious, intentional choices. In many cases, unconscious actions are a result of the brain's need to conserve energy. Our brains are constantly processing information, and much of this processing happens automatically in the background. This allows us to carry out complex tasks like driving a car or typing on a keyboard without having to think about every single movement or decision. These unconscious actions help us navigate the world more efficiently, but they can also lead to errors or missteps if we are not paying attention. For example, we might drive on autopilot and miss an important exit, or we might type a message without considering the words we're using. These automatic actions are helpful in some situations, but can also lead to mistakes when we're not fully engaged or aware of what we're doing. Unconscious actions are also influenced by deeper psychological forces. Our unconscious mind is constantly working to protect us from emotional pain, stress, or trauma, often by suppressing difficult emotions or memories. In these cases, unconscious actions may serve as defense mechanisms, helping us avoid confronting painful truths about ourselves or our lives. For example, we may unconsciously avoid situations that remind us of past trauma, or we may project our feelings onto others as a way of avoiding personal discomfort. These unconscious actions can be protective in the short term, but over time, they can prevent us from healing and growing. Becoming aware of these defense mechanisms and understanding their origins is an important part of emotional and psychological growth. Despite the prevalence of unconscious actions in our lives, we do have the ability to bring more awareness to them. Through mindfulness, self-reflection, and introspection, we can begin to recognize the unconscious patterns that shape our behavior. By observing our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment, we can become more aware of the ways in which our unconscious mind influences us. This awareness allows us to make more conscious choices and to break free from the automatic behaviors that no longer serve us. In doing so, we can begin to align our actions with our true intentions and desires, rather than being driven by unconscious forces. The fabric of reality is a concept that invites us to explore the fundamental structure of the universe and the underlying principles that govern our existence. It suggests that reality is not a random collection of events or isolated occurrences, but rather an intricate and interconnected web of forces, energies, and dimensions that shape our perception of the world. This web, or fabric, is what we experience as reality, and it is constantly evolving and shifting, influenced by the laws of physics, consciousness, and the mysterious forces that lie beyond our understanding. At the core of the fabric of reality is the idea that everything in existence is interconnected. From the smallest particles to the largest cosmic structures, everything is part of a vast, intricate system that functions together in harmony. This interconnectedness extends beyond the physical world to include the realms of thought, emotion, and consciousness. Our individual experiences, thoughts, and perceptions are not isolated from the world around us. Rather, they are influenced by and contribute to the broader fabric of reality. The fabric of reality is not just something external to us, it is something we are constantly interacting with, shaping, and being shaped by. One of the most profound aspects of the fabric of reality is the concept of consciousness. Consciousness is the lens through which we perceive and experience the world, and it is intricately woven into the very fabric of reality itself. Some theories suggest that consciousness is not just a product of the brain, but a fundamental aspect of the universe, existing at the most basic level of reality. If this is true, it means that consciousness is not confined to our individual minds, but is something that pervades all of existence, influencing and shaping the world in ways we may not fully understand. In this view, the fabric of reality is not just a physical structure, but a conscious, living system that is aware of itself and continually evolving. The laws of physics also play a crucial role in shaping the fabric of reality, from the fundamental forces of nature, such as gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces, to the mysterious phenomena of quantum mechanics. These laws create the structure and order of the universe. They govern the behavior of matter and energy, shaping everything from the formation of galaxies to the interactions of subatomic particles. The fabric of reality is not a random, chaotic system, but one that follows specific rules and patterns. These laws are the threads that weave together the fabric, giving it coherence and structure. Yet, despite the apparent order and structure of the universe, there are many aspects of reality that remain mysterious and beyond our comprehension. Quantum mechanics, for example, reveals a world where particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, where cause and effect are not always predictable, and where the very act of observation can influence the outcome of an experiment. These strange and paradoxical aspects of reality suggest that the fabric of reality is not as simple as it may appear. It is a dynamic, evolving system that operates according to principles that may be beyond our current understanding. The more we learn about the universe, the more we realize that reality is far more complex and mysterious than we ever imagined. The concept of parallel universes is another intriguing possibility within the fabric of reality. Some theories in physics suggest that our universe may be just one of many, each existing in its own separate dimension or space-time continuum. In this view, the fabric of reality is not a singular, unified whole, but a vast multiverse of interconnected worlds, each with its own set of rules and possibilities. These parallel universes could be similar to our own, or they could be radically different, with entirely different laws of physics and forms of life. The idea of a multiverse challenges our traditional notions of reality and invites us to consider the possibility that our universe is just one thread in a much larger, more complex fabric. In addition to the physical and quantum dimensions of reality, the fabric of reality also includes the realm of human experience. Our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are not just passive reflections of the world around us. They actively shape our reality. The way we think about ourselves, others, and the world can influence our actions, our interactions, and even the events that unfold in our lives. The fabric of reality is not just something we observe, it is something we participate in, actively creating and shaping it through our consciousness and choices. In this sense, reality is not a fixed, unchanging thing, but a dynamic and interactive process that is constantly being co-created by all conscious beings. One of the most powerful aspects of the fabric of reality is its capacity for change and transformation. The universe is constantly evolving, from the birth and death of stars to the shifting of tectonic plates to the ever-changing thoughts and emotions that arise in our minds. The fabric of reality is not static. It is a living, breathing system that is always in flux. This constant change is both a reflection of the natural laws that govern the universe and a result of the choices and actions of conscious beings. We are not passive observers of reality. We are active participants in its creation and transformation. Our thoughts, actions, and intentions have the power to shape the world around us, contributing to the ongoing evolution of the fabric of reality. At a deeper level, the fabric of reality may also be shaped by the collective consciousness of humanity. As individuals, we each perceive reality in our own unique way, shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and cultural backgrounds. However, there is also a collective aspect to consciousness that connects us all. The shared beliefs, values, and ideas of society can influence the way we collectively experience and interpret reality. In this sense, the fabric of reality is not just an individual experience, but a collective one, shaped by the collective consciousness of humanity. Our shared perceptions, beliefs, and actions can create a collective reality that transcends the individual and shapes the world in profound ways. The fabric of reality also suggests that there may be deeper layers of existence that we are not yet able to perceive or comprehend. Just as a fabric is made up of many threads that are woven together to create a larger whole, reality may be composed of multiple layers or dimensions, each influencing the others in subtle and complex ways. There may be realms of existence that lie beyond our perception, realms that are not bound by the same laws of space and time that govern our everyday experience. These deeper layers of reality may hold the key to understanding the true nature of existence and our place within it. Remembering the future is a paradoxical concept, one that bends our traditional understanding of time, memory, and existence. At first glance, the idea of remembering something that hasn't happened yet seems impossible, as our memories are typically tied to past events, moments that have already transpired and left their mark on our consciousness. However, when we step back and contemplate the fluid nature of time, the possibility of remembering the future begins to take on a deeper, more metaphorical meaning. In the conventional sense, our memories serve as records of past experiences, shaping who we are based on what we have lived through. These memories are often tied to specific events, relationships, and emotions, forming the foundation of our personal identity. We look back on them not only to recall the details of those moments, but also to make sense of how they have shaped our present selves. Yet, the idea of remembering the future forces us to consider the nature of memory itself and whether it is truly a linear process. Could it be that our memories are not just a reflection of the past, but a potential window into the future? One way to explore this idea is through the concept of premonitions or intuition. Throughout history, many individuals have claimed to have experienced moments of foresight, visions, dreams, or sudden insights that seem to predict future events. These moments often arise unbidden, as if the mind is somehow reaching beyond the present moment and into what is yet to come. While such experiences are often dismissed as mere coincidence or the result of wishful thinking, they suggest that the human mind may be capable of tapping into a deeper level of awareness, one that transcends the confines of linear time. In this light, remembering the future could be seen as a form of intuitive knowledge, a memory of things that have not yet fully materialized, but that the mind can somehow sense ahead of time. The idea of remembering the future also brings to mind the notion of cause and effect. We often think of time as a one-way street, with the past influencing the present and the present shaping the future. However, this linear view of time may not fully capture the complexity of the universe. In some scientific theories, such as those explored in quantum mechanics, time is not a simple unidirectional flow, but something more fluid and multidimensional. Could it be that events in the future have an impact on the present? Could we, in some sense, remember something from the future because it is already influencing the present moment? This would challenge our conventional understanding of causality, where the past determines the future, and instead propose a more interconnected and cyclical relationship between time's different dimensions. There is also a psychological aspect to remembering the future, one that relates to our projections and anticipations. We often imagine the future based on our desires, fears, and expectations, and these mental constructs can shape the way we experience the present. For example, when we daydream about future accomplishments, relationships, or experiences, we are, in a sense, remembering a future that exists only in our minds. These projections, while not based on any actual events, create vivid mental images and emotions that feel real to us. In this way, we are not only imagining the future, but we are creating a memory of it, a memory of something that has not yet occurred, but that feels as tangible and vivid as past experiences. Our minds have the ability to weave narratives about the future, and these imagined futures can be so deeply embedded in our consciousness that they become a kind of preemptive memory. Another intriguing aspect of this concept is how it relates to the choices we make and the paths we take in life. The idea of remembering the future suggests that, in some way, we might already know the outcomes of our decisions before we make them. This concept is reminiscent of the idea of fate or destiny, the belief that our lives are preordained, and that the future is already written. Some people have a strong sense that certain events in their lives were meant to happen, as if they had already remembered the future before it unfolded. This feeling of inevitability may arise when we encounter moments that seem too perfectly aligned to be mere coincidence. In these instances, we may feel as if the future has already been set in motion, and we are simply walking the path that has already been laid out for us. Could it be that, on some level, our future selves have already left a trail of memories for us to follow? Could our actions and decisions be influenced by a part of ourselves that exists beyond the present moment? Furthermore, the concept of remembering the future raises questions about the malleability of time itself. If we can somehow recall the future, does that mean that the future is not fixed? Are there multiple futures, each shaped by the choices we make in the present? This idea opens up the possibility that the future is not a single, predetermined path, but a vast array of potential outcomes, each shaped by our actions and decisions. Perhaps in this sense, remembering the future is not about recalling a specific event, but about sensing the potentialities of what is to come. Our memories of the future would not be fixed, but rather, they would represent the infinite possibilities that exist within the fabric of time. Each decision we make could create a new memory of a different future, one that reflects the choices we have yet to make. On a more philosophical level, remembering the future invites us to reconsider our understanding of time as a whole. If we are capable of remembering the future, does that mean that time is not linear? Are the past, present, and future simply different aspects of a single unified experience of existence? In many philosophical traditions, time is viewed as an illusion, something that the mind constructs in order to make sense of the world. If time is an illusion, then perhaps our memories are not bound by its constraints. Instead, they may represent a deeper, timeless awareness that transcends the sequential flow of moments. In this view, remembering the future is not an impossibility, but a reminder that our perceptions of time may be limited and that there is more to reality than meets the eye. In literature and art, the idea of remembering the future often serves as a metaphor for the human experience. Writers, poets, and artists have long explored the theme of fate, destiny, and the tension between free will and determinism. In many stories, characters have visions or dreams of their future, and these glimpses of what is to come shape their actions and choices. Often, these characters must confront the paradox of knowing the future while still attempting to navigate the present. In these narratives, remembering the future becomes a way of grappling with the uncertainty of life, the tension between knowing and not knowing, and the desire to shape our own destinies. The idea of remembering the future captures the complexity of the human condition, the struggle to understand our place in the world and to find meaning in the vast, unknown expanse of time. The limits of human perception are a fascinating and complex subject that touches on the boundaries of our awareness, understanding, and experience of the world around us. Our senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, allow us to interact with the environment and make sense of our surroundings. However, these senses are not infinite, and they are restricted in numerous ways. Our perception of reality is shaped by the limitations of these senses, the structure of our brains, and the cognitive processes that filter and interpret the vast amount of sensory information we receive. The question of what lies beyond these limits and how our perception shapes our understanding of the universe leads to profound philosophical, psychological, and scientific exploration. One of the most evident limitations of human perception is the range and sensitivity of our senses. Each of our senses operates within a narrow range of stimuli. For example, our eyes can only detect light within a specific spectrum, the visible light spectrum, which means that we are completely unaware of infrared or ultraviolet light, even though these forms of light exist all around us. In the same way, our ears can only hear sounds within a certain frequency range, typically from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, missing out on sounds that fall outside of this range, such as ultrasonic frequencies used by animals like bats or dolphins. These limitations mean that there is an entire world of sensory experiences that we cannot directly perceive, even though they may be happening right in front of us. Similarly, our other senses are restricted in various ways. Our sense of taste, for example, is limited to detecting a few basic flavors: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, while missing out on the subtleties of complex chemical compositions that other creatures might be able to detect. Our sense of touch is sensitive to certain types of pressure, temperature, and texture, but is not capable of detecting more subtle forces, such as electromagnetic fields or gravitational waves, which exist all around us but go unnoticed by our sensory apparatus. This limited sensory input means that the reality we experience is only a small fraction of the actual physical world. The way our brain processes sensory information also plays a significant role in shaping our perception. Our brains are not passive recipients of sensory input. Rather, they actively interpret and filter the information that comes in. The process of perception is inherently selective, with our brains filtering out irrelevant or overwhelming stimuli to focus on what is most important. This filtering process means that we often miss details, distort our perceptions, or fill in gaps with assumptions based on past experiences or expectations. For instance, optical illusions demonstrate how our brains can be tricked into perceiving something that is not actually there, such as perceiving movement in a static image or seeing a hidden object within a complex pattern. These illusions remind us that our perception of reality is not a perfect reflection of the external world, but a constructed representation, subject to our brain's limitations and biases. Another important aspect of human perception is our cognitive and psychological filters. Our perceptions are not just shaped by sensory data, they are influenced by our mental and emotional states, past experiences, cultural contexts, and individual expectations. This means that two people can experience the same event in vastly different ways. One person may find a situation exhilarating and joyful, while another person may perceive the same event as stressful or anxiety-inducing. These differences are a result of the ways in which our minds interpret and filter sensory information, influenced by a host of internal factors. Our biases, beliefs, and emotions act as a lens through which we perceive the world, shaping our experience of reality in ways that go beyond the raw data provided by our senses. Our limited perception also affects our understanding of time and space. Time, for instance, is something we experience as a continuous flow, but our perception of it is subjective and influenced by a variety of factors. The experience of time can feel slower or faster depending on our attention, emotional state, or the complexity of the tasks we are engaged in. A minute spent in intense focus can feel like an eternity, while an hour spent in a relaxing environment might seem to pass in the blink of an eye. In the same way, our perception of space is shaped by the limitations of our senses and cognitive abilities. We are capable of perceiving distances and dimensions, but our ability to accurately gauge the vastness of the universe is constrained by our finite perspective. The observable universe stretches for billions of light years, yet our minds cannot fully grasp the immensity of space or the complexities of cosmic structures. The universe is vast and beyond the limits of what we can directly observe or comprehend. These limitations also extend to our understanding of the natural world. While we can perceive and understand many aspects of the physical world, there is much that remains hidden from us. For instance, we cannot directly perceive the subatomic particles that make up matter, nor can we observe the intricate processes that occur inside living cells. Our understanding of biology, chemistry, and physics is based on indirect observations, experiments, and models that allow us to infer the existence and behavior of things we cannot see. In some ways, our scientific discoveries are attempts to expand the boundaries of our perception by using tools and technologies that allow us to detect things beyond the capabilities of our senses. Instruments like microscopes, telescopes, and particle accelerators extend our reach into the microscopic and cosmic realms, revealing a universe that is far more intricate and expansive than what we can directly experience. The limits of human perception also have profound implications for how we understand the nature of reality. If our senses only provide a narrow window into the world, then what we perceive as reality is necessarily incomplete and subjective. This leads to questions about the nature of objective reality, whether there is a reality that exists independently of our perception, or whether reality itself is shaped by the minds that observe it. Some philosophical traditions suggest that what we call reality is, in fact, a construct of consciousness, a projection shaped by our senses, minds, and beliefs. In this view, reality is not an external, objective truth that we passively observe, but rather something that is actively created through our interactions with the world. This raises the question of how much of reality is truly out there, and how much is shaped by our perception of it. At the same time, there is a growing understanding in physics and cosmology that the universe itself may be far stranger and more complex than our senses can reveal. Theories such as quantum mechanics, relativity, and string theory suggest that there are fundamental aspects of reality that lie beyond the reach of our perception. Whether it be the behavior of particles at the quantum level, the warping of space-time, or the existence of multiple dimensions. These phenomena are beyond the scope of human senses, yet they profoundly influence the structure of the universe. The limits of human perception challenge us to expand our understanding of reality and to recognize that there may be far more to the world than what we can directly observe. The sound of silence is an intriguing concept. one that paradoxically invites us to explore both the absence of sound and its potential implications. Silence, by definition, is the lack of audible noise, but the experience of silence is far from empty. In a world filled with constant noise, from the hum of electronics to the chatter of daily life, true silence is rare and often sought after for its ability to create space for reflection, meditation, and a deeper connection with oneself. Yet, even in the absence of sound, there are layers of meaning to be found. Silence speaks to us in ways that we may not always be consciously aware of, and it holds a complexity that transcends its simplicity. To begin with, silence is not a uniform experience. It varies depending on the context, environment, and the individual experiencing it. In a bustling city, silence might be experienced as a rare moment of calm, a fleeting escape from the chaos of traffic, conversations, and mechanical sounds. In contrast, in a remote wilderness or a secluded space, silence can take on a different quality, one that feels expansive and profound, almost as if the absence of human-made noise allows us to hear the deeper, quieter rhythms of nature itself. In each case, the sound of silence holds a different meaning and brings with it different emotional and psychological responses. One of the first things we notice about silence is its ability to bring our attention inward. Without external distractions, we are left with our thoughts, emotions, and inner dialogue. In the quiet, we are often forced to confront the things we may have been avoiding or suppressing. Our minds, so accustomed to the constant influx of information and stimuli, may initially feel restless in the absence of noise. This internal turbulence at first may feel uncomfortable, but it also provides an opportunity to observe and understand the workings of our mind. Silence can reveal the patterns of our thoughts, the habits, fears, desires, and judgments that govern much of our conscious experience. It can be a mirror reflecting the often unspoken and unnoticed aspects of ourselves. However, silence does not always equate to emptiness or boredom. It can be a space where deep creativity and inspiration flourish. In a world of constant input, silence offers a rare opportunity for the mind to reset and create freely. Many artists, writers, and thinkers find that their most profound ideas come during periods of solitude and quiet. The absence of external distractions allows for a deeper engagement with our inner world, where the seeds of new ideas can take root. Silence is a fertile ground for the mind to explore its own depths, to make connections, and to give birth to new possibilities. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that we may find our most authentic thoughts and creativity emerging. Silence can also be a powerful form of communication. In relationships, there are times when words fail us, or when speaking feels inadequate. In these moments, silence can convey emotions and messages more clearly than any words could. A shared silence between two people, whether in a moment of mutual understanding, grief, or contemplation, can be more meaningful than the most eloquent conversation. Silence has the ability to communicate what is often too complex or too intimate to be expressed verbally. It allows for space between individuals, a space where unspoken emotions can be felt and understood. In this way, silence becomes a language in its own right, one that transcends the need for words. At the same time, silence is often a source of tension and discomfort. In social situations, silence can be perceived as awkward or unsettling. In a conversation, a moment of silence can feel like an interruption or a gap that needs to be filled with more words. This discomfort with silence is particularly evident in a culture that values constant productivity and engagement. We are conditioned to feel uneasy in the absence of sound or activity, as though silence represents an absence of purpose or connection. Yet, this discomfort may stem from our inability to be at peace with ourselves when the external noise fades away. In silence, we are left with the raw reality of our own thoughts and feelings, and this can be both liberating and intimidating. The unease we feel in silence often reflects our struggles with being present, with sitting in stillness and confronting our own internal world. Beyond personal reflection and communication, silence also plays a significant role in our broader cultural and spiritual contexts. Many religious and spiritual traditions value silence as a means of connecting with a higher power or achieving inner peace. In practices such as meditation, prayer, and contemplation, silence is seen as a pathway to transcendence. The act of quieting the mind and the external environment allows individuals to enter a state of heightened awareness, where they can experience a deeper sense of connection to the divine, to nature, or to their own true selves. In this context, silence becomes a sacred space, a space where the ordinary noise of life falls away, leaving only the essence of existence. Interestingly, silence also carries a certain paradoxical quality. Although it is defined by the absence of sound, it is not necessarily devoid of meaning. In fact, silence is often pregnant with meaning, waiting to be understood. The pause between words, the moment before a decision is made, the stillness before an event, all of these instances of silence can be rich with potential and significance. In music, for example, silence is an integral part of composition. The spaces between the notes, the rests, are just as important as the notes themselves. It is in these pauses that the melody breathes, that the rhythm takes shape. Silence, then, becomes a necessary counterpart to sound, giving structure and meaning to the music as a whole.